Once again, it's on, and we are back in the house once again. Yeah. I'm not trying to interfere with you guys' holidays. I think last time I was broadcasting on the 4th of July, and like I said, I know you guys are out there barbecuing, and like I said, I'm kind of far removed from those festivities. It's been a while, but I remember back in the day, my family, just like your families, they had some world class barbecuers, right? So but like I said, I have not been in the loop, so I don't know exactly what the trending things that people like to throw on the grill, because I know you Negroes be putting all kind of wild game on the grill. I mean, I don't know if you're still putting out the pork chops and the ham hocks and the hog maws and the hog balls, and I mean just all kind of nonsense, opossums and raccoons, and again, I'm far removed from all of that, so you gotta inform me. I'm not trying to offend anybody. Let me know what you guys are throwing on the grill for those holidays, or if you're even barbecuing on Labor Day. I'm not sure. I know on Memorial Day and 4th of July, I believe you guys do, but when it comes to Labor Day, are you guys still barbecuing on that day? Inquiring minds want to know. Well, anyway, now that's out of the way, I'd like to welcome you all to another exciting episode of the Night Riders Squad cast. And like I said, once again, it's on. We do have a lot of ground to cover. As you guys are well aware, I mentioned to you guys that over the summer we would be very busy, and as per mentioned, I have been just that, preparing things offline as well as on, partially of which we're going to be going over tonight. And I'll give you, as I mentioned, a few more details in that regard. But again, this is going to be an action-packed broadcast. You know how we do over here. That's the phrase that I coined. A lot of people like to use it, but when we use it over here, you know how we do it. There's some substance to it, right? Because you know how we get down. But anyway, we're going to get right into it. Because like I said, there's a lot of ground to cover, and we want to make sure that we pack everything in. And, of course, making it entertaining along the way. Now, let's get into the first order of business. And that is that of the Knights of the Round Table. And I know you guys have seen the trailer before we posted it. We appreciate the feedback. Obviously, we also posted it at the beginning of this particular presentation as well. And tonight or today, whenever you are going to view this presentation, we want to give you more details on what exactly it is and how it can benefit you. You know how I like to do it. Just like when we introduced the Night Rider Squad cast channel, we like to follow what's known as the 5W and 1H framework. And those of us who have been here from day one, you've seen this before, but we're doing it in an updated way. And if you would bring your attention to the first monitor that you see on your screen, we are going to be dealing with the 5 W's and the 1 H. Now, I'm not sure what device you're going to be viewing this on, but if you're on your phone, it may be too small, but we just decided to put it on the screen for you just to kind of outline what we're going to do. What we're going to be doing, as I said, is just giving you an overview. Over time, you'll learn more and more about it, but tonight, I just feel it's necessary to go a little bit more into depth using, like I said, the 5 W's and 1 H protocol. Now, if you look at the second screen, you'll see what the 5 W's and the 1 H is. Now, the who, what, when, where, why, and how. So to get right into it, the who. Who is this meant for, at least in its initial stage? As I mentioned in the particular presentation, the trailer, this is for the elite, the Knight Riders who have either been with us from day one, those of you who have been moderators, those of you who have substantially and consistently supported the content, you guys, and also people who were over on the Patreon. You'll be grandfathered over, and like I mentioned, and I have to re-emphasize, being a part of the Knights of the Round Table, there is absolutely no charge for it. You're going to be part of a larger network, which again, in later dates, we'll go into how that all coincides, because I want you to think of this in terms of a kind of a virtual breakaway society, which also has a mirror in reality, in the sense that we're not just going to limit our interactions online. We are going to be doing things offline, doing certain events. Obviously, we are very big in economics, planning. I'm going to show you some ways that you guys can make some very nice money on the side, irrespective of what you're doing. All legal, of course, but we're going to touch on that. But when it comes to the granular details, that's something to be done on the actual network. Now, circling back to the who, the initial phase of what we've done is to invite over those of you, as I said, who fall within that certain category. Now, there are still requirements, and once you send your indications of interest, which some of you guys have been sending them to the Real Mr. G email. Now, those inquiries will not be acknowledged. The Real Mr. G email is exclusively for people who want to schedule consultations or contribute to the Zelle. So I want to make that very clear. If you are sending inquiries with regard to the Knights of the Round Table to the Real Mr. G email, those will not be acknowledged. Because guys, we got to be disciplined, and we got to follow instructions. I know if you want to hide something from Negroes, all you have to do is put it in the description box. But I did mention in there that the inquiries for the Knights of the Round Table will go to the Counselor Mr. G email, which you should see in the scroll at the bottom, as well as, once again, it's going to be in the description box. So again, the initial phase of this is for people who meet certain requirements. Now, if you give an inquiry and you do not fall within the requirements to be part of the Knights of the Round Table, have no fear, because we have other tiers. And I'm not trying to rhyme, by the way. It's just, you know how rhythmatic I am. Things just come out like that. But anyway, have no fear. We have other tiers. You will probably qualify for the Knights in Training, which would be the one of the categories below the Knights of the Round Table, because right below the Knights of the Round Table we have the Council of Elders, which are men who may not necessarily be in that core group of the Knights of the Round Table, but people who obviously have wisdom that we respect, and that can, because I'm obviously double booked. You know, I'm in the Council of Elders as well as the Knights of the Round Table. So as you guys learn more about it, you're going to see how fascinating this is, how unique this is, and how beneficial this is. So in short, the initial phase, as I mentioned, to be eligible for the Knights of the Round Table, the first thing you do, you send in your indications of interest to the Counselor Mr. G email. Upon receiving your inquiry, we will review it. We will give you feedback, and then if everything is a go, you will be sent a link take you to the Knights of the Round Table platform. And again, guys, this is going to be something that you will definitely benefit from. Now, the other W is the what. So again, what is this? This is something that you can kind of put within the framework of a Discord in this initial phase. However, like I told you, and as I reiterate, you know how we do over here, I was not satisfied because I've had guys reach out and they were saying, hey, we would like to have our own Discord and things like that. But I took my time on it and I did research, and we wanted to make sure that certain requirements were had, because the high level types of conversations and the types of things that we are doing, I really want to make sure that we could maximize privacy and security, right? So upon research, we found a platform that fit those specific requirements. And some of my tech guys, the difference between a platform that is end-to-end encrypted as opposed to being only encrypted in one direction, right? Which Discord and some of the others are not. Now, again, we're kind of trendsetters, so I know once this platform grows and what, obviously how we're going to be using it, a lot of people are going to start biting the style as per usual. And you may start seeing people abandoning their Discords to try to branch over into the platform that we're going to be using. But again, that's neither here nor there. Initially, that's something that we will be able to benefit from. The platform is compatible with iOS. So a lot of you guys who are using iOS, like myself, you can use the platform. You can use it on PC. You can also use it in Android. So all bases are covered on that. So once again, if you qualify, you will be getting all those details in terms of how you can access the platform. And again, the easiest way to frame it is to think of it as a Discord with a bunch of other benefits that you don't get on Discord. So in terms of the what, I think that would be the best way for you to visualize it. Although there's some key differences and there's some abilities that we can do on it that are not available on the Discord, as you guys will see, because a lot of the things that we're going to be doing, and I'll let the Knights of the Round Table, we'll have it as a discussion in terms of how you want to do the live streams, because we can all meet on that particular platform the way we did it on our live streams, and we can have higher level conversations that won't be allowed on YouTube. So what I was thinking is that we could kind of broadcast our lives or have our lives together on the Knights of the Round Table. And then what we will do is maybe have an edited version that I can put out for YouTube. I was thinking about that as opposed to just doing the live on YouTube and then, taking it down or whatever, or just, censoring it, self-censoring, that is. So I was just kind of throwing it out. But again, once we assemble everybody and we decide to start having these think tanks and talking about how we're going to move, that was one of the things that I was going to consider as to whether or not I was going to continue to just broadcast our live streams straight on YouTube. I was thinking about, again, doing it kind of in the shadows on the Knights of the Round Table, and then editing out those particular things that we may not want to be public, and then just having a version that I'll just go ahead and post on the Night Riders channel. But again, that's something for us to discuss at a later date. Now let's get into the next one. The win. The win is right now. Right now, we are taking indications of interest. Once again, you're going to email at the Counselor Mr. G email. If you are not familiar with that email, look no further than the description box. Or you can go ahead. I know this is going to post as a premiere. I was debating as to whether or not I was going to do a live, but I just decided to do it as a pre-recorded premiere. I know a lot of you guys, you may not catch it when it's airing. I know, a few of you said that you would be in the house for the premiere. I will be there at least part of the way as well to try to engage you, and I may drop the email in the chat as well. So in terms of the when, it's right now. You can send in your indications of interest, and we will go from there. Now, when it comes to the where is at our new platform, which we're going to consolidate a lot of the older things that we've posted on my old channel, such as Counselor Mr. G, which, as you guys are aware of, I privatized that channel because we were getting so much flack. I think I privatized that almost 2 years ago. But a lot of that content will be available on the Knights of the Round Table. As well as things on the Patreon. And this is the beauty of this, guys. And what I thought about was, hey, if we're a family, if we're a group, I was always battling with whether or not I liked utilizing Patreon. Not because I don't think it's a good platform, but I said, in terms of the community I'm trying to build, it seems a little commercial. And again, I'm not knocking it because, obviously we had our own Patreon. But I just said, in terms of what I'm trying to do, the idea of having a fee that people are paying, and I'm not against, obviously, getting money. You guys know how it is. And again, I'm going to touch on that a little bit later in terms of how we can get to the bag in terms of what we're going to be doing as well. But anyway, my point was, in terms of the squad, in terms of the network that we're building, I didn't necessarily like how Patreon was organized, because it's not really a very intuitive platform for interactions, right? I mean, you can post stuff and people can comment and so forth, but it's not as interactive as obviously like a Discord. So I wanted something that had the benefits of Discord and something that I could utilize as the Patreon, where we can also have certain content that you could access that may have a charge associated with it, but just to be on the platform itself, there's no charge. So I want to once again re-emphasize that once you go over to the Knights of the Round Table, and that's even for people who may have been on the Patreon, you will still get access to all of the content that you could on Patreon, and then some stuff I hadn't even got around to posting there because we kind of were building this out. So obviously the Knights of the Round Table, you guys are going to have exclusive content and no cost, but there may be special things, more detailed things, more how should we say, more revealing in terms of some of travel exploits. You may see some ladies that obviously I won't be able to show on YouTube and certain platforms. So certain things that you may want to see that may require like a pay-per-view type thing, but we'll work it out. But again, when it comes to the base platform, we're going to be phasing out the Patreon, and that is everything that was over there, the digital downloads and so forth. You will still be able to do that on the Knights of the Round Table, and all of the content will be accessible there. And any of the new content or things that I felt that was kind of aside from the stuff that I, could just make available in general. There may be, as I mentioned, a pay-per-view option for that, but we'll go over that later. But I just wanted to make that very clear. Now let's get into the fifth W, and that is the why. Why are we doing this? Now, it should be pretty obvious to you guys that YouTube has been, for all intents and purposes, and for lack of a better term, acting a goddamn fool. And, there have been a lot of people getting demonetized. There have been some chicanery going on in terms of the performance of channels, ours in particular. I've noticed, and I'm sure you have too, you'll see goofy things such as views on a video going in reverse. You'll see a video going up, and then all of a sudden, not only does it freeze in terms of the views and the engagement, but then the numbers will actually start reversing. You will see people being unsubscribed. I remember we were the past month or so we had gained like hundreds of new subscribers. Now all of a sudden I'm looking and we're stuck. The numbers they've been siphoning off, and I had a guy that I saw a video that he was breaking down how they did it. A lot of times what YouTube will do, whenever you gain, they'll start unsubscribing people, and it kind of balances out. So it's a lot of foolery. And we're just kind of sick and tired of it. I mean, we're still going to put content out here on the on the Night Riders Squadcast, of course. However, we needed to have an alternate place, right? And you know how I am about the alternate places, just like the KRU and all of this. And this Knights of the Round Table is part of a larger universe as well, where we can kind of, put out good content and just have it within our own sphere. And as we build it out, and the beauty of the way we're doing it, guys, this is not just a thing for us, but I'm going to get into that a little bit as well, in terms of how we are not anti having women in the mix. We have tiers for women as well. Yeah, I know you guys might be shocked. This is not a non-Keisha zone in the sense of, it is in the sense that we don't want no damn Keishas. We don't want no woman who doesn't fit a certain type of decorum. But whether she's a foreign woman or a woman that is in the States, because I've had women emailing as well, and that's the reason why I'm addressing this. There are certain strict requirements, ladies, and we do have certain positions, no pun intended, for the ladies that want to be a part of the Knights. But you can't be a knight, of course, but we do have a place for what we call the virtuous maidens. And I'm going to get into that a little bit because, it's kind of interesting how this all kind of goes full circle, because us evoking the and then referencing knight culture, obviously what comes out of that is chivalry. And it's amazing how in modern times they have reduced chivalry only to as it pertains to how you relate to women, which is not at its core what chivalry is about. But I'm going to touch on that shortly. But like I said, part of the why is that we need a place that's outside, obviously, of the confines of YouTube. Those of you who are serious writers who know what's going on, that's the reason why we follow the geopolitical situations. And we want to make sure that we are in touch, that we have strategies and methodologies that we're going to be implementing to benefit ourselves, which leads me to the point that I alluded to in terms of how we also are able to get the bag. I normally don't go into a lot of detail about some of the businesses that I'm involved with, although I have disclosed in the past that I have been in the financial industry, had a successful career in that, as well as being into real estate. So a lot of you are well aware of that. But in terms of some of the things that I am currently doing, I've been very much clandestine about that for a reason. some guys, they're more of an alpha persuasion. They're very forthcoming. They're using their real names and showing you every granular detail about what they're doing. Personally, I don't have a problem with that. I think that's a marketing strategy as well. And I think depending on your personality, if you're an extrovert, of which I'm not, I'm an introvert, but those guys who are extroverts, I think that's part of their, personality, and that's part of their marketing uh, strategy, and I don't have a problem with it. However, over here on the Night Riders, we move more in the shadows. We believe in disclosing the things that are necessary, but making sure that we are not oversharing. And what some of the things that we're going to talk about later in terms of the difference between us and the passport bros, that comes to mind in terms of how we don't just blast everywhere that we are going to go. Even if we start organizing trips or things like that, if we decide to disclose it, it's going to be released after we've already finished our trip. Some guys are giving live updates in terms of every step they're taking and all the stuff that they're doing, such as that Jackass J-Rello, which we're going to talk about, of course, as well. But yeah. But when it comes to the economic piece, I obviously you guys know that I've shared a lot of information in terms of geopolitical situations, socio-economic dynamics. I've had guys who have asked questions about investing and so forth, and obviously publicly, you can't give financial advice and so forth. But I've had people call for consultations, and we've talked about their specific situations. Now, circling back to my point, I've not talked specifically about some of the businesses that I'm doing now, and again, for good reason. But what I am going to share right now is that one of the things that I do is I'm involved in fintech. And for those of you who may not be aware, fintech means financial technology. Combining my knowledge of what I learned in the financial industry with modern technology, one of the things that I do is work in conjunction with companies on how to process their payments and giving them better deals on that. It's a very lucrative, recession-proof business, because no matter what, a business has to make money. And the process by which they make money, if you can position yourself involved in that process, as I have, then it's kind of unlimited income potential, right? I'm not saying it's easy. There's different tiers to it. I'm kind of like on the cutting edge of doing it. So my task and the things that I have to do about it will be more difficult than what you can do or what you would have to do to still make money from it. And this is an exclusive offer to the Knights of the Round Table. For those of you who go over to the Knights of the Round Table, one of the things that you're going to be able to do is see how you can tap in and get money in conjunction with what you're doing now. Because the beauty of what we're doing is it's kind of along the lines of being a digital nomad. You can work from anywhere. And if I give you specific tasks to do that would help in the businesses that I'm involved with, then it doesn't take away from your job. I'm going to make it so that it's easy for you to just kind of do certain things that can give you some decent money while helping you build up your war chest faster, so that when you guys decide to take those other leaps, such as deciding to leave the States, invest in foreign property, do all the stuff that we're going to be talking about, you'll have a nice little bag sitting on the side. So you see what we do over here, right? We're bringing it full circle. And like I said, that's one of the areas in which you're able to make money with what we're doing, is, as I said, within the wide range of fintech. And the beauty of fintech is, as whether it be digital currency, everything evolves, the industry is going to evolve as well. And I'm going to make sure I stay on top of that, because, like I said, a lot of it is recession proof. You can work from anywhere. You get into the right positions, you have the right clientele, because like I said, I deal with companies all around, and it's a very beautiful thing to be able to do the B2B or business to business type situation, because a lot of you you may be depending on your interactions with the public as part of your business, or working a job that is it's based on the general public. And the stage up right above that, in my estimation, is when it comes to the B2B or business to business industry, specifically when it comes to fintech. So one of the things that we're going to be showing you on the Nights of the Roundtable is a way to get the bag by getting involved in some of those industries. And those of you who may be interested, I know some of you guys are already working jobs and so forth, but I'll show you some ways that you can just do a few tasks and still get money. Something as simple as giving somebody a flyer and letting them know that as a company, we can reduce their fees. And if they, give me or one of my associates a call, I mean, you got a few $100s right there just as a referral. So if we are able to get the sale, then you're going to benefit. So it's just something like that. So it's a beautiful thing. And a lot of the other platforms may not be adding that type of value. And again, I'm not knocking what nobody else is doing. I'm just using this as a juxtaposition because, you got other places like I think the Manosphere, they have a conference coming up, and shout out to them. Those of you who know, I've actually contributed to that. Did some sponsors on that. So I like to see what other people are doing, and I congratulate it. I don't hate on it. And I just make sure that when I fine tune what we're doing, because at this particular stage, it's about the value add, right? It's not just about, making content, because as I, develop a larger, more captive audience, I want to definitely have more value, especially for those of us who are night riders, because we consider this more of a squad, a brotherhood. It's not just me making content. And that's the reason why I wanted to make sure that my contribution to the space was something tangible as well, not just putting out content, especially when there's resources available for me to go ahead and extend that. So I'm very pleased in what we have, and I will put it up against the other stuff. Like I mentioned with the Manosphere, they're doing their conference. I know the core thing that they're doing is, I guess they're meeting a few days a year, which is great. And but when it comes to the Nights of the Roundtable, it's year round. We can always meet up from there. At the core of what the Manosphere's conference is that they're doing cloud computing, which I'm very familiar with. I have a few certifications in cloud computing, Azure and things like that. So it's a very good industry. Talking about whether it be cybersecurity and so forth. The difference between that and what we are presenting to our Knights of the Roundtable is that, as I mentioned, it's very much recession proof, because even when it comes to working in the industry, you can make money. They're talking a couple 100,000, that a lot of those guys are starting to be able to pull down, which is great. However, you're still an employee, whether it be for a cybersecurity firm or some other company. And with the advent of AI, I think those type of jobs, just whether it be coders and so forth, you're more vulnerable to being replaced, as well as, being laid off as the economic headwinds become stronger. Whereas in the fintech industry, what I'm trying to make you guys more familiar with, irrespective as to what's necessarily going on, as long as there's a company making money and needing to process their payments, we will always be able to get paid. And the beauty of it is, as the economy contracts, as you go into the recessions, companies are always looking at ways to save money. And the particular companies that I'm aligned with, they can undercut a lot of the bigger companies, because the bigger companies, they have such a massive monopoly on the market that they are not willing to give those certain, discounts and so forth that we can do coming in as a smaller, more mid-sized company. Meanwhile, we're able to go in and eat their lunch in terms of, dealing with small businesses. But anyway, you guys will learn more about that, those of you who may be interested. Like I said, it's very dynamic, very exciting, and, I'm very much so glad to be a part of it, and I would like to share some of that information with you as well. Which leads me to the last part, which is the how. And that is, how does this benefit you? And I've kind of went over that already, but I'll just summarize it by saying you can't afford to not be a part of this. Again, as I told you, even when you're just subscribed to the Night Riders Squadcast channel, it's kind of like a software, right? It's like your digital utility bill. You use it in conjunction with whatever, we're not a cult. I'm not telling you to only listen to me. A lot of you guys are subscribed and listening to a lot of other channels, but you will get things over here that you will not be able to get anywhere else. And I'm not just saying that as a bragging right. I'm saying that as a point of fact. As I just demonstrated to you, you probably never heard anybody say that before, talking about a whole nother industry such as fintech and how you can benefit from it very easily. Depending on your involvement, obviously, as you go up the ladder, you can make more, but there's certain, easy things that you could do that, like I said, even if it's, just going out, getting a lead for a business that decides they want to do business, then you're getting paid just from that. So things like that. So again, just as a juxtaposition, not putting down what anybody else is doing, but how this can benefit you. I mean, there's numerous ways, not to mention the brotherhood, the camaraderie. We're around like-minded guys. We're Night Riders. We're Black Sigma men, which, we're going to go into a little bit later because I'm, I got to address some things on that. But yeah, I mean, in a word, just to put it very simply, as I mentioned, how this benefits you is by being a part of it, and you cannot afford to not be a part of it, especially if you are considering yourself a Sigma man. You're considering yourself the type of guy who's thinking ahead. You're looking at the world. You're looking at how things are going, and you're just not playing games, and you're ready to make a change in your life and to prepare for what is inevitably to come. So that's pretty much it, guys. I just wanted to just give you more details, which I feel I've done. Obviously, if you have any other questions, anything you need to know specifically, once again, you're going to email the counselor, Mr. G. Email address. You will not email me at the real Mr. G. I will not respond if you're inquiring about the Knights of the Round Table over there. I'm just, once again, making that clear. But if you do send an inquiry, in the form of your indication of interest, and you have more specific questions, I will have no problem answering those. All right? Okay, so again, I think that has been covered. That was a big chunk of what I wanted to talk about that was covered on that. Now, let's get into some of the fun stuff. Now that we got the business out of the way, right? We got the business out of the way. Let's go into the effery, because we gotta have our level of effery, right? We gotta do that. So, it has come to my attention that there are people that are, still talking crazy about women and how they are so much better and superior, and men are the root of all evil, and men are the problem, and so forth, right? So we've addressed it, because I've spent the greater part of the past month or so, battling an assorted number of clowns and cyborgs and jokers and so forth. So I think the point is very much given, but unfortunately, a lot of these people, they continue with their foolery, and they're saying things like, the women are the ones who are essentially holding the society up, and men once again are the problem, and all of this. And I'm going to tie back into something that I mentioned earlier in terms of just this whole vernacular that we're using as far as knights and so forth. It's pretty ironic because I think that what needs to be clarified is exactly some of the terminology that's being used, such as um, chivalry, right? So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to show you guys something. And you're probably not going to get this anywhere else. But again, I don't say that as a bragging thing. I say it as a point of fact. But it's very important that some of these points are established. But when you look at the definition of chivalry, right? So let's go into it. It says chivalry, the medieval knightly system with its religious, moral, and social code. Now, gentlemen, what part of that is talking about women? Because, they did the okey doke with you. What they've essentially done is try to minimize and limit the code of chivalry just based on how men are supposed to treat women. If you ask the average person today what chivalry is, and they're talking about, treating a woman right, which nothing can be further from the truth. That's not what it is. Those of you who are pretty much well read and have a good grasp of history, you should be familiar with the Eastern version of this, which is known as Bushido. That was very much the code of the samurai. That has more to do with the interactions with the fellow samurai or the fellow knights, and then it branches off from there when you're dealing with other classes of people, which is I'm going to show you here in the other definition. So knights, noblemen, horsemen collectively. Now, when you go down to the third definition here, or let's say the second, it says the combination of qualities expected of an ideal knight, especially courage, honor, courtesy, justice, and a readiness to help the weak. Now that's of any gender, right? It doesn't matter if it could be a weaker man. It could be, someone that, a child or someone that's in need, right? So you notice how that corresponds with a lot of the things that I've taught over here, right? Talking about how as men, we need to have honor, we need to be courageous, courteous, we need to be about justice. So that is the core of what chivalry is. But to hear specifically these modern women tell it, it's all about them, right? It's not until we get down to the third definition that we can see that. Courteous behavior, that's one, and it says especially that of men toward women. Now that's the modern rendition of it, right? But I wanted you guys to see this because it is something that is highly relevant. And some of those people would be such idiots that I'm sure they'd say, well, you're talking about European stuff. Why are you talking about that European stuff? Well, just like how they try to make patriarchy a white man thing. Meanwhile, black men were the first patriarchs. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But circling back to that point, the original code of chivalry and things of its nature was brought by the Moors. And we've had extensive conversations about that. The Moors and the black Jews that were up in the Iberian Peninsula at the time, and how a lot of these codes and things were distributed from them. No need to get into that right now, but I did want to make that a point because you do have dimwits that will throw up stuff like that, not knowing history. And I'm sure my man Oswald will be in the building or be in the house. He knows all about that as well as a few other guys. But anyway, salute. So yeah, so I want you guys to see that. Now, how this kind of ties into the Knights of the Round Table is that, as I mentioned, we do have a category or a specific platform for women, because a lot of women want to be around successful men that are going places. The ones that, the other hating type women, the one that they call pick-me's, those are just women that we call the classy women or the maidens. That's going to be the new name for them, because there is a difference between a maiden and a wench. You may have heard the term Bedwench, of course. And these terms are not to be offensive. I mean, these were descriptive terms. These were the classes that women occupied. In fact, I think on Reddit here, a guy broke it down very well. Let me show that one. Because there were actually three classes of women. And this guy says they are all young unmarried women. The difference is where they are in the class system. A damsel is an upper class or nobility. And you may have heard the term damsel in distress, but typically people only think of the word damsel as it pertains to her being in distress. Meanwhile, there was an actual class of women known as damsels that were, of the upper class. But in America, for example, you don't necessarily have a class structure. You do in terms of income, but such as upper class, middle class, but you don't have one in terms of social class as it pertains to nobility, right? And you certainly don't have it when it comes to a behavioral standard. But when you think of a damsel in its, from the nobility standpoint, these were the ladies. And if you go and look up the term lady, it's a woman used as a polite or old-fashioned form, a woman of superior social position, especially one of noble birth. So that's exactly what a lady was supposed to be. Now it's just given to any of them, and that's part of the problem. That's part of the problem, is that you have too much. It's to the point now where they're actually calling themselves queens. So that shows you how off the mark things are. But I digress. But let's go back to this particular post, and it talks about the damsel, the maiden is a woman of any class, but usually somewhere in the middle. And then you have the wench, which is at the bottom, lower class, farm girl, domestic servant, serving girl, or even a prostitute. Now, contrary to popular belief, there's a place for all of them within the social structure. The only difference is a lot of these modern women, they fall within the wench category, but they want to be considered damsels, or at the very least maidens. And we don't play that game. But with the breakaway society that we're forming with the Knights of the Round Table and the larger platform that we're going to be using, because the way it's structured, guys, you have kind of like, it's like a country. And there are general people that can come. It's like if they visit a country, they'll get like a pass, right? A 90-day pass or whatever. They could be within the larger platform. And if they qualify to be in some of the other tiers, then we'll, as the Knights of the Round Table, we'll vote on it and we'll see who they are. We'll have them, present themselves, and then a man or a woman, and they can move up through the system. It's very fascinating. Once you guys see what we're doing, you're gonna be like, man, this is unlike anything we've seen. But this is necessary because a lot of us are tired of having no type of social structure, specifically when it comes to around black people. I know you guys in the States, especially those of us who've already left the States, thankfully we don't have to deal with those things on a daily basis, but just looking at it from a distance, it's very disturbing, and we see the need to at least create our own version of what needs to be happening right now. And you have these dim-witted goofy broads who will be talking about how they're against hierarchy. Meanwhile, the only way things function properly in nature is to have some type of hierarchical structure. That's even present in the animal kingdom. But just like how these women demonize terms like patriarchy, not knowing that everything that is possible that they can benefit from comes from it, they want to demonize terms like patriarchy and hierarchy. Ridiculous. But yes, we have a hierarchy, and for women who want to be part of it, you're going to fall within one of three of these categories. You could either be the damsel, the maiden, or the wench. And again, there's a place for all of that. We do have a tier for that. If the women come in and they decide they want to engage with some of the gentlemen and meet up or whatever, then you're going to be going under based on one of these predispositions. If you're a lady, you're looking for marriage, or you're looking for some type of meaningful relationship, you're looking to come under a man's authority and so forth, then you're going to be in one of these. If you're involved with one of the knights of the round table, then you're automatically in the upper class. You're a nobility. You're a damsel if you qualify for one of us. Now, anything, one of the regular guys, or maybe a knight in training or a guy like that, and you want to be associated with him, you will be in the maiden. But if the woman, you just like to get busted down, and you just, you're out there and you're community property, then and there's a gradient of that. That's on a scale as well. Some women prefer to be, in terms of just friends with benefits, or they just want somebody to kick it with in their local area or whatever. So it depends, right? And again, we're not shaming any of it, but I know you guys are like, man, this is very unique. Yeah, it is, and this is very practical, and it's necessary. So again, this is something that is going to be formulated over time, as more and more people come in. But in the meantime, as I mentioned, we are just making sure that everybody understands how this works. So I say all that to say that these women are out here making these ridiculous claims, talking as if they are the ones having it going on. And my question to them is, if women are such, we're talking about modern women, right? Because unlike some people, I don't have a position that women are bad intrinsically. I do try to look at them on a case-by-case basis, even though we go hard on these women who are out here cutting up and acting a fool. Part of the reason why I did this platform was to demonstrate the fact that as long as you set up a filtering process, it's very much not just okay, but preferable to have women in the mix. I'm not trying to, diss anybody, what anybody else is doing, but at some point you're gonna get tired of a sausage fest, a bunch of guys, right? As much as I love, being with my brothers and talking about the things we talk about, we need to have an environment if we're going to have these types of interactions, where specifically if we want to do meetups and things like that, that willing, ready, able, and appropriate and qualified women can be in the mix as well. But my question to these modern women who do not adhere to any of the things that I'm saying, if you type of women are such great nurturers, providers, and psychologists, then why don't you build your own Amazonian society? Like kind of what we're doing over here at the Night Riders. We're not just talking about it, we're being about it. We set up this particular platform that will mirror real world things, because we're also looking at certain areas of land, and I'm even looking at islands and stuff like that, different places that we can kind of invest in and just have our own little kind of a breakaway society, right? Not on no cult stuff, but just on a means of, dealing with the reality of the situation and wanting to be around like-minded, similar moral people. My question to you guys that always want to blow your own trumpet about how great you are and how great women are in general, specifically the modern variety, why don't you guys just formulate your own networks, go out, create your own society? Oh, that's right, you can't do that because most women don't even like being around other women. That's the reason why when you get into these LGBT, lesbian, lick-em-low lover relationships, you're always at each other's throat, and even the stats say that those are the most violent unions. Not, you would think it would be between two men, right? That we don't condone, by the way, but you would think that two men, since men are more violent, you would think that those unions would be the most violent. Not so. It's actually the women, the nurturers and the providers and the protectors. Very interesting. And some of you women have the nerve, because I even heard that the cyborg who we body bagged, just about a month or so ago, I didn't even need to drop the third round on her, but at some point I may just drop it on GP. But she was talking about logic and how men are not logical, and she was using all types of ridiculous examples. And first of all, only a cyborg would think that logic is the only solution. you're not supposed to be 100% logical. Men are human beings. We have to act on emotion sometime. Case in point, if men were 100% logical, none of us would be willing to save anybody at our own expense. You would not have firemen. You would not have men who literally jump to the aid of saving somebody that they have no vested interest in, other than there's someone in distress, like a damsel in distress. Someone acting under 100% logic with some of these goofy broads don't understand how dysfunctional that would be, and they're trying to shame men for not being 100% logical while benefiting from the fact that that percentage of emotion that men have is the reason why they get to live as good as they are living. Now, you'll have situations where someone is in need of help and you'll have a man risking his life. For example, let me show you this quick video of this this boxer and this old guy. And look at this. For all these women's talk about how powerful they are. And again, this guy, he's an old man. He's holding a little knife. No man would would be held hostage by this guy. But this woman right here is freaking out, panicking, as she should be, because she's a lady. We don't shame women for being emotional and being who they are. We understand. Unlike these goofy modern women who don't understand how this works. But I'm going to show you something about this, and it's going to prove my point. But let's go.
A terrifying hostage situation unfolded in Kazakhstan when a knife-wielding man took an airport security officer captive, threatening to stab her and blow up the airport. With a blade to her throat, the young woman trembled in fear until one man stepped forward. Musa Abdraim, a retired boxing champion, fearlessly confronted the attacker. He offered himself in exchange for the hostage.
Okay, now was that logical? That was not logical at all, now was it? What logic would it be for a man that he don't know that woman? He's just a spectator like everybody else. So what prompted him to do that? It wasn't logic. It was what we call courage. It's what we call being a protector. Something that men excel in. That's why you've seen countless examples of men risking their lives to save other people. Meanwhile, you got goofy, bug-eyed cyborgs like Cybernetic G talking about how women are more logical than men. No, women are maybe more self-serving than men, maybe more... that's why you don't see women running into burning buildings to save anybody, including their own children. But you'll see men do it. We've showed the video. And again, we're not knocking women for that because that's their nature. We understand women nature. And this is global. This ain't, this isn't just me picking on women from the West. Women across the world, they typically are more selfish than their male counterparts, which is fine. And in some ways, from a biological standpoint, they should be, because they are the ones who are carrying the man's seed and developing that baby, so they need to be more concerned about their personal safety, because they're more they're weaker and they have more things that could damage them. So that's totally understandable. But conversely, what they like to do is demonize us for our nature, right? And meanwhile, if it was not for our nature, then you wouldn't see situations like this. And they're so goofy. What they'll say is, "See, well, I guess we need men to protect us from other men." You goddamn right. Because there's good men, there's bad men. So let me ask you this, ladies. If you got a boyfriend or a brother and you're walking down the street, and I don't care what it is, it could be a man or a beast that jumps out and protects you. Let's say it's another man that comes and he's got a knife. Are you going to make that same goofy argument? Oh, well, my brother got to protect me from this other man, so therefore I'm going to invalidate his protection. No, because that would be stupid. Because again, there's all kinds of variety of people. There's women. It could be a crazy woman running down the street with a weapon, and then it may have to be your husband or your boyfriend or whoever, your brother, to protect you from her. So it just depends. But the larger point that I'm making is that this is an example of the nature of man. Man is not supposed to be 100% logical. And I'm just kind of pushing back at that narrative because that goofy cyborg, I got word that she was over there saying that. which is ridiculous. Just trying to talk about who's logical, and she was trying to make it seem like women are more logical than men, which we know is a goddamn lie. But she used examples of men not being logical. It's not logical for a man who's a multi-millionaire to deal with a goddamn waitress or somebody who ain't got no money. That's very illogical. But again, a lot of men do it. Why? Because men are human beings and they have emotions. Men fall in love with people. Men get affectionate for people. We've all done it. I've been with women I know I shouldn't have been with. You know, she wasn't on, you know, on a level that she should have been on, but I had an emotional attachment. But later on, I learned better and I learned from those mistakes. But at the same time, that's just part of being a human being. But anyway, let's wrap up this particular video. I'll show you guys what happened.
And in a stunning move, disarmed the knife man with his bare hands.
Now, what woman would you have saw that would have done that? Not only did he sacrifice himself by exchanging himself for the woman, but then he helps to disarm the man. So, yeah. And again, guys, we're not doing this because we owe these women any type of explanation. We, you know, again, what do we do over here? We defend our image against propaganda, right? And that's across racial boundaries. That's why, you know, I could use a man like that to show. Well, we've got countless examples of black men in particular doing acts of heroism, right? But you know, just in terms of the gender piece, that's the reason why we can just show examples like that. But specifically when it comes to how they try to demonize our image as black men, you know, we get that work for them when it comes to that as well. So moving right along, I think that particular point was proven. And here's another thing that I would like to ask the ladies, because, you know, with this whole trope about how they're so-called decentering, and once again, I have to say it, we don't have a problem with them calling themselves decentering. We just don't like the fact that they're trying to demonize men in the process, and they're creating all of these false narratives in conjunction with their so-called decentralization. That's the problem we have, and that's what we're pushing back against. So we really don't care about them claiming that they are no longer dealing with men on a personal level. But you have this particular individual right here that you guys should be well aware of, who I think is
I'm not ashamed to say it.
Is a perfect example of the folly of these modern women, as this particular degenerate female was married to a man who was, for all intents and purposes, and by all accounts, a good man. But she felt like she wanted to do this right here.
I'm in my hoe phase right now. Happiness over everything. Where's your mind?
Okay, so she was in her hoe phase, figuratively and literally, and left a perfectly good marriage to be busted down in the streets. And then she had the nerve to come back on the internet crying and snotting everywhere.
I'm feeling present.
Like she's a damn victim when she's the one that destroyed her own marriage. And you just see countless videos of her making goofy ass excuses for it, looking like a bug-eyed idiot. And I never found them to be attractive. I know some people say they're attractive. I don't find them to be attractive. They look like that freaking buzzard that's on Sesame Street. I forget his name. I think he was a friend of Big Bird, something like that. But anyway, I ain't gonna do too much roasting. But
Audience.
She's crying all over the internet. You know, her and her sister. I just got word. I think her sister was married to a white man. I think he's about to dump her too. You know, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but she's just melting all over the internet, crashing out. You've seen the videos, but she's the one that walked away from her relationship. So my question to all these Decentra ladies, how is that working out for you guys? How is that working out for the likes of, is that Team Tamara or Tia? I get them confused. But this, again, this bug-eyed little banshee right here,
I am.
how is her life
feeling
going?
in a
Is she in a relationship with anybody right now? I don't know. I don't keep up with her, but last time I checked, she was snotting and crying all over the internet about how she missed her husband and how much of a mistake she made. But meanwhile, she wasn't thinking like that because why? They were over emotional. When she was in her whole phase, she didn't care about none of that.
I'm not ashamed to say it. I'm in my hoe phase right now. Happiness over everything. Where's your mind?
So when she says happiness over everything, she means literally everything, including her own family and children. So that's what happened. But we know how that train wreck pretty much ended up. And again, we have countless examples of these women crashing out over the fact that men are not approaching them. They're worried about not being able to have children, all of this stuff. But you have goofy individuals who are putting batteries in their back, specifically, you know, these Western women, still thinking that they themselves have all the time in the world and they get to just sit back, get their insides rearranged by any number of men, and they can end up happily ever after with a Prince Charming. It's amazing. But meanwhile, let's just play some of these crash out clips of how these women are talking. And this again goes across all races and backgrounds when it comes to the Western women. We know at the helm of a lot of this is the white women. You know, they're the ones that propagated a lot of this nonsense. But the B-dubs were some of the biggest proponents of it, as well as the biracials and so forth. And they're all pretty much in the same boat when it comes to this. And us pointing this out does not make us misogynistic or anything like that. We're just making this as a reference and a point of fact. But let's go ahead and play some of these women talking about their particular experiences.
Like I'm getting older and it's like I have to put some effort into dating or I'm just gonna be alone forever. But now I'm just honestly getting to a point where I'm just gonna be the single aunt.
I don't want to wake up at 60 by myself.
I'm 53.
God damn, 53? Especially white women. And like I said, a lot of them were the ones who kind of spearheaded this whole feminist nonsense. And they should have known better because they aged like day old milk that's already, if you buy it, it's already a day old, and then you just let it sit in the refrigerator. You open it and it's actually sitting in the heat. I mean, these women are out here looking like porpoises, orcas, belugas, and barracudas, and they're on these computers. I said they are looking like porpoises, orcas, belugas, and barracudas, and they talking crazy on these computers. I mean, damn.
I would like to think that I'm still young,
This woman looks like the Crypt Keeper talking about she's still young.
right?
Being alone, having no one there to talk to as you age, no kids.
As a 41.
This woman looks like one of those, she got a goddamn nose ring, but you remember on Blade 2? What does that remind you of? Remember on Blade, not the first one, we're talking about Blade 2. You remember those vampire hunters? It was like those mutations, the creature. Remember, you guys remember. And remember when they were getting ready, because they were preying on the vampires, because you had the hunters being hunted, right? That was the whole thing about it. You had vampires, you had Blade who was hunting the vampires, but then you had those vampires that were hunting the vampires too, and they were eating them. And they had this opening at the bottom of their chin. They had this split like that, and it would open up, and it had a bunch of ugly fangs and stuff. You remember? Go back and watch Blade 2. You tell me if she don't remind you of that. But anyway, I digress.
1-year-old woman, I am terrified. I'm lonely, but I don't think I'm that lonely. Dude, a 60-year-old man liked my profile, and it makes me, I think I'm gonna cry.
Bitch, you ought to be happy if a 60-year-old man wants to get with you, for quite frankly.
I'm 41, I'm not.
Damn, I could have sworn you was in your 60s.
Holy snaky.
Why is it so incredibly difficult for a woman over 50 to find a life partner or a companion? companion.
Because you're not supposed to be a woman over 50 trying to find a life companion. You're supposed to have worked that out in your 20s. That's why you're 30 years late. That's the reason. Very easy to answer these women's questions. They try to make it all profound and, why is this happening? I didn't expect my life to be like this and all this. And no, madam, when you were getting busted down, when you may have looked halfway decent in your 20s, that's when you were supposed to have your life partner. But no, the guys who you actually had the option of being with, they were too lame. They were not the bad boys. Because they have the Brad version of all of that as well. And so that's what happened, ma'am, and that's the reason why you're over 50 looking dumb, asking why where the men at is really ridiculous.
Dating after you are 40 years old is better.
Yeah, because you're actually not supposed to be dating as a woman in your 40s, and that's another thing that these women don't understand, is that this whole concept of dating and all of that's a very much artificial concept, because the way it was supposed to work is that the man in your life, preferably your father, would be the one to vet the men that he would bring around his daughter. And there was not really a dating process. There was more or less a qualification process. And if that man met certain qualifications, then the father would allow that man to take your hand in marriage. There was no you going out into the street deciding when you were going to get tired of getting busted down and that you were going to choose for yourself the man that you were going to end up with. Because we know how well that's worked out for most of you ladies. But meanwhile, you have everything negative to say about patriarchy. I mean, it's ridiculous, but let's go.
Like, it's so ghetto. Especially if you're like a woman who's independent and got her own. Even the dudes that are my age, like...
So you're independent and got your own, but you still are out here worrying about getting a man. I thought men were inconsequential and not necessary. So for all the ladies who keep making it seem like the men are the ones that are so thirsty and they want to be in relationships the most, I don't see a lot of men talking like this on the internet, to be honest. I don't see a lot of men asking why the women don't want to be in relationships with them. I just don't see it. Maybe you guys can let me know if you see it or not. And again, this is not to be competitive or anything like that. We're just responding commensurate to what they be saying. That's the problem. The problem is these women are the ones out here kicking up all this dust, and when we give them the clap back, then all of a sudden we're misogynistic. It's insane. Let's get a little bit more.
They're playing games. They're playing games. Like, baby, I don't got time to be texting all day. Like, plan something.
Yeah, he all he's planning to do is bust you down, and that's it. That's his plan. So it's amazing how these women still don't get it, but that's what they chose. They chose that. Let's get some other examples.
Do pretty girls sometimes never get approached by guys?
Tell me why I get so mad when an ugly man approaches me.
So am I like the only woman that no longer gets approached by men?
Okay, so last night I was talking to my friend and I was telling her about how I'm gonna trap a man because I'm almost 38.
The biggest misconception.
But you hear that, right? But meanwhile, they want to frame it as though you guys are the predators, but she's up there talking about how she's going to trap a man. Yeah, we're going to have to talk about that a little bit later when we get into this J-Rello piece. But yeah, I got some things to bring out about that, but let's go.
And I was telling her about how I'm gonna trap a man because I'm almost 38.
The biggest misconception men have about women. You think we don't want to be approached. When in reality, most women are dying for you to come up to them.
Men want to be
I think we already know that, and we're just amazed at how many women are lying openly like that, because we already know what it is. You know, it's just a matter of their own personal delusion. And that's the reason why a lot of us, you know, who have kind of bypassed the entire fiasco that's going on with the West in mentality, you know, a lot of us, specifically as Night Riders and, you know, other factions of Sigma men, which I'm going to get into later as well before we wrap up. we're just kind of taking evasive maneuvers, so to speak. Let's go.
Chased. I'm not. I can't even imagine being a man and thinking that I want to be chased. I don't want to be chased. I want to take control. I want to take the lead. I want to make you feel special. Why are you expecting a woman to do this?
Maybe those men who are expecting you to do this are because a lot of you women were screaming about how you didn't want to be street harassed and catcalled and all of that, and that you don't want to have to me too a guy and all of this type of stuff. So the guys are saying, you know what, we're gonna let them do it since every time they approach women, there's a problem. So they just say, hey, why don't you do it? But meanwhile, she's looking dumbfounded as to why men are no longer approaching them. Amazing. Let's get some more of this foolery, and we're going to move on to the passport situation.
I started the egg freezing process. I did some preliminary tests.
Man, this woman's pale as hell. But yeah, that's where they all end up, just like Ebony K. Williams in how I had to prove to the cyborg, because she was out there trying to make it seem how easy it was for these women to freeze their eggs and go through that entire process, which, like I mentioned, it's a very grueling process. But those are the wages of the sins of them wrecking their lives, making all these ridiculous decisions, and then trying to make it seem as though men are the ones that are the only problem here, when their bad decisions have led them to this inevitable situation. But let's get it.
It showed that my egg count is really low. The doctors did tell me that might affect my fertility. My eggs are high quality, but there's just not a lot of them. It's just so sad.
I don't know who needs to hear this, but the grass isn't always greener on the other side. When I was younger, I dated someone who was seemingly an amazing man, an amazing boyfriend, but he had...
So we get to see in real time the war paint as it comes on. I bet she's about 5 shades darker than this, and obviously the hair is manufactured. But let's get a little bit more.
A few little quirks, a few little things that honestly could have been looked past, but because of what I saw on social media, I was just over the relationship. And I'm sure there were other things that went on during that relationship.
You heard what she said? So she said, based on what she saw on social media, she ended a relationship. So now she's up here getting put on her war paint to go get another unsuspecting simp, because the guy she was with, obviously he may have, didn't let the toilet seat down or something, and all of a sudden she and some goofy broad like Cybernetic G told her that she didn't have to put up with it. So she heard something on the internet, and then she broke up her relationship. Let me play that back.
Looked past, but because of what I saw on social media, I was just over the relationship. And I'm sure there were other things that went on during that relationship. Major reason that I left was because I wanted more than what that relationship was willing to give me at that time, which is so ridiculous because he was an amazing partner.
Okay, so even herself is saying how ridiculous it was for her to leave, but yet she still left the guy. But this right here, look, that's the whole point of what they are doing, as far as they are the ones that are creating these environments for themselves. This is it right here. They're answering it. She even mentioned herself that what she did was ridiculous. Just like what I showed you in the beginning with Tamara or Tia, whichever one it is. That's what she did. Left a perfectly good relationship for no other reason than either they just wanted to get bust down in the street, or something that they saw on social media because they felt they had a fear of missing out of something. Insane. Let's go.
I don't have regrets. I'm just putting that out there, but
yeah, she don't have regrets because that's too much like accountability. That's too much like holding yourself responsible for your dumb decision. So when they say that they have no regrets, that's code speak for they don't want to be held responsible for the foolery of what they did to ruin their lives. So they just act like they don't care. Let's go.
we were just growing together, but I was so impatient and I saw what these guys were giving their girlfriends and I wanted that.
Okay, so she saw some probably made up bullshit on the internet. She's in a perfectly good relationship. The guy, I'm sure, is treating her well. No problems. Didn't do any, no cheating, no beating, none of that. Because you know that'd be their first go-to. Oh, he was cheating. Oh, he was beating, which is all BS most of the time. But anyway, she had no other reason to leave the guy other than the fact that she was living vicariously by a bunch of performers, probably on Instagram or whatever social media she was looking at, because he was a quote allegedly, and I bet you she was looking at some of these manufactured divesting channels where the guy, he's a white guy in with a black girl, and they're pretending like they're in a relationship just to get the bag because they know goofy ass bras like this are gonna buy a hook, line, and sinker to the point where they're gonna leave their own man for it. Ridiculous. But I bet you it was probably some stuff like that. But let's get it.
My final decree of divorce has been approved by the judge. I know that it sucks being alone. I come home and I'm alone.
But I thought they were decentered. I thought, they love being alone. Them and their cats.
Go everywhere alone. I don't hardly talk to him anymore.
Because you're divorced.
I don't blame him.
You probably shouldn't, because you're probably the bimbo that left.
I filed for the divorce.
Yeah, I guess I was right.
I'm wondering, well, you filed. Why are you so upset? Why are you crying? Just because you make a decision that you think is going to end up making things better doesn't mean that you have to give up the fact that you love that person.
This woman's dumb. So she thought thing was gonna be. In other words, she had some other dude on the side that she thought was gonna wife her up. And he was busting her down, and it didn't work out. So now she's regretting. End of story. And then for those women who are out here fronting, we know you're fronting, and there's other women pulling the cover off you as well. And I'll just let her sum it up right here about how they like being alone.
I think it's a defense mechanism because who does not want a companion? That is just like mind-boggling when I hear people say, well, I just want to be single and I don't need nobody. It's not true, sis.
It's a fear response.
It is.
It's a trauma response.
It's because you think that you can't get that, so you're going to say that you don't want it. But saying that you don't want it is going to keep you from getting it. That's what you don't know.
Okay, so there you have it. I think she summed it up for a lot of those women who are out there screaming from the rooftops of how decentered they are, they don't need a man, and all that kind of stuff. We all know it's cap, but I just like to hear it from the horse's mouth because a lot of these women, they like to get ahead of themselves. But, over here, we bring all of the receipts, and it's very simple. Yeah, like that. So let's go on to the next thing. And that is this whole dust up with the passport bro thing, right? And let's reiterate this point because I think that we always have to do it because for some damn reason these women like to, by default, make it seem like a lot of us who, even though we don't consider ourselves passport bros, like I mentioned before, night riders, we're not passport bros, and I'm going to go into some of the reasons why. But, men with passports who travel, this framing of it, even by some guys who always try to make it seem as though this is an act of desperation because a man can't get a woman in America, as if it's so damn difficult to get a woman in America or something, right? Anyway, they want to frame it like that, and only the guys who are doing this are losers who are unattractive, who don't have any money. And, we just have to let the women who actually see some of these guys speak on it. And we played this clip before, but I think it bears...
Men can't even travel. Yeah, but it's crazy how these men, but it doesn't matter what these women think of these.
And shout out to Dating Right for posting this. Let me get to that point where I'm just going to play a little of this just as a reminder. And what this woman saw with her own eyes. So let's get it.
Video here where she pretty much explained.
My last video, I was speaking to the amount of black men that are currently in Cartagena. So just to be clear, what made this very interesting to me, and this is not my first time in Cartagena. However, my first time in Cartagena was during the pandemic, and so it just wasn't nearly as busy. So this was my first time experiencing Colombia I think in a more realistic form of just what, the average flight consists of. And it was a extremely large amount of Black men. And for reference, I'm a full-time travel content creator, which means I am traveling all around the world, often on flights all the time. And I can honestly say that it is very rare for me to see a large number of Black men on a flight that I'm on. It is very, 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 very rare. So to arrive...
Yeah, because a lot of, Black men are only going to certain countries, and, a majority of the guys who are traveling are men from other backgrounds, which get no amount of the same flack or attention, and they've been doing it for years. But, we've talked about that before as well.
And have a flight full of men, but also to see other flights full of men. And the customs line was crazy long. So when I say that there were Black men everywhere, I literally mean there were Black men everywhere. But what was the most jarring to me is the realization that I think there's a lot of discourse on the internet, and there's a lot of people that are like, oh, it's just dusties, it's just broke men, it's just...
And I want you to pay attention to something. She said it was jarring to her. So that means that she would have preferred to believe that they were all dusty, right? But once she got a look at who these guys actually were, that's what pretty much prompted her to even make this video. But let's go.
Men that other women wouldn't date.
It's crazy how these men can't even travel without being called names. Yeah, but it doesn't matter what these women think of these men. These men are doing what's best for them, and they are out enjoying their lives. These women...
Yeah, so he's right about that. But yeah, that was the only part I really needed to play. We played that before more in depth, but again, they make the points for us, right? Very simple. Yeah. Like that. So yeah, meanwhile, a lot of us, we've been over there, and taking in sites like this, Yeah, so somewhere chilling, we ain't worried about it. We don't care if they think we look like Quasimodo or we living in our mom's basement and so forth. That's cool. Meanwhile, the women that we come in contact with in these various countries, they they benefit from the real deal. They know what it is. So anyway, I'm gonna have to get into something here that came across my desk. With this whole J-Rello situation, and there was a particular video that I came from a familiar face, to be honest, and that's one Golden Goddess. And those of you who are familiar, she's been on the platform, and shout out to her. I'm not gonna go as hard as I could, because I did have some respect for her, because she was one of the few ladies that had the courage, her and her assistant, to visit us on the Squadcast. We had a very good conversation, chopped it up a bit, but I didn't even know she was necessarily still on the had a channel, because I thought last time she had closed it down or something, because I had some way I had subscribed to her. But this video came across my desk, and I was going to touch on the J-Rello situation, and I think she addressed it, but she said some things in this video that I took umbrage with. And again, that it's fine. People are entitled to their own opinion. However, some of the references that she was making in terms of men who travel, and once again, even though if the Night Riders were not passport bros, in the sense that when it comes to the passport bros, there's no clearly defined definition for who they are. And it's like Austin Holloman even said, and the reason why he disassociated himself with it was because anybody, whether they're a passport Pookie or whoever, that's traveling, specifically if he happens to be a Black man, is going to be labeled as a passport bro. And there may be those guys who are doing things on the up and up. They just are chilling, they're going to these different countries, having fun. They may be genuinely interested in the culture. They may have some actual attachments. They may be married, but they just like to travel. They may be just going there to seek out whether or not it's conducive for them to move. So there's a lot of different variations within the realm of the passport bro, and there are the guys who are just going for sex. You know, the guys as the sex tours, which has always been that, right? So it runs the gamut. There's a whole host of different variations, but somehow, some way, these ladies like to focus on the most nefarious aspect of it. Meanwhile, every guy, regardless as to his motivation, is thrown into that whole pot. And it's ridiculous. And that's the reason why when I make the distinction between the Night Riders and the Passport Bros, our methodology for traveling is not just to meet women, it's a strategic relocation. Using myself as an example, there was no issue with getting women where I was in the States. If anything, that was a good thing for me to do to get away from the opportunities that I had, so that I didn't get caught up and settle for less, because I had been in very serious relationships and noticed a pattern over time and why certain things were not working out. But when it comes to the rationale for moving, I didn't choose the country that I moved to because of women. I was looking at various metrics, and a lot of us on the Night Riders, that's what we're looking at. We're looking at the relative cost of living. We're looking at the infrastructure. We're looking at the geopolitical situation and where we can position ourselves when certain things go down. So our whole methodology for traveling is just part of our overall strategy, and we will not be lumped in specifically with a group of individuals such as the Passport Bros who don't have a specific definition, and it can kind of be a catch-all phase to no matter if the guy's just going overseas to trick or if he's just going overseas to do what we're doing. So it runs the gamut. But I want to make it clear that with the brand, when it comes to the Night Riders, and you think of us in terms of travel, know that. Put that in your pipe and smoke it in terms of why we travel. Is engaging with women part of it? Yes. But that goes into the calculus of where we may decide to move, but it's a very small component. And if all things being equal, we may leverage moving at a place that has a, in our estimation, more attractive set of women, or, better behaved women, or so forth. That might be part of the calculus, but that's not the entire formula. That's not what we're looking at. But the way these women like to frame it is if that's the only reason why guys are moving. Ridiculous. So I just wanted to put that out there, just to make it perfectly clear what separates the Night Riders from the Passport Bros. Now, getting back to my point, Golden Goddess made this particular video going in on J-Rello, who's a Passport Pookie, which again, that's still going to be lumped under Passport Bros. And I don't have a problem with her going in on this guy, because, goddammit, that's what we're going to do too. However, I think that some of the wording that she was using has to be addressed, and I'm going to show you. So let's load this video.
Hey everybody. Hey! I hope you're all doing well today. So I was out here chilling, being nosy, minding my business in these YouTube streets, and I saw that there was a lot going on, y'all. So hit that like button on the way in and that subscribe button if you have already not done so.
She cracks me up with these GIFs or whatever she's using and these little sound effects. So it's kind of funny. I don't mind little goofy stuff like that. But, we were going to tag her in this video, but I think they went back and they noticed that she took down her channel again. I don't know if it's backed up, because you know how these ladies are. They one moment they're posting stuff, next minute they taking the channels down. Even when she reached out to me, she left a comment and then she deleted her comment. So I don't know why these women do it. But again, as men, as gentlemen, we can appreciate the differences between men and women. As men, we stand on it. If I make somebody a comment, hell, I got comments still on people's channel that I left 5 years ago. So I don't delete nothing. But the point is, we have to stand on business, but we give women grace, especially when they're in their place. Again, I'm not trying to rhyme, but the fact still remains. We give women grace when they're in their place. It's just when they out here making all these weird and crazy accusations and doing all these deflective tactics and gaslighting, that's when we got to push back. And then they make the mistake of interpreting that as some type of misogyny, when a lot of us have a great deal of affection for women. We got great women in our family that we love, and that's the reason why personally my standards for women are so high, is because I saw so many great women in my own family. But anyway, I'm just talking about how, it's just like a lot of these women, they're very fickle, and one moment they're posting stuff, next moment they're taking it down. And so, we went over there. Luckily, we were able to snatch this video before she took her channel down again, because we was hoping that we could tag her on it, because, we like to tag people. But, again, I may still tag her on it, but I'm not even sure if her channel's still up. But I want you to pay very close attention to what she's going to say. I'm going to have to address a few things.
And let's see what's been going on.
I'll do the best I can with what I got. Oh!
Okay, you guys, so we're back with another episode of the Trifling Passport Bros, aka the Passport Pookies, aka the Passport Predators.
Okay, so you see how easily that rolled off her tongue? Oh, they're the Passport Predators. Well, wait a minute, Golden Goddess. And again, I'm not just picking on you, because she's not the only one that's used this type of terminology. You do know that that's a serious thing to say, because when you're calling somebody a predator, that would kind of insinuate that they're preying on underage people. You do know that, right? That terminology is very inflammatory. So the reason why I'm even having to address this, and again, I'm going to give her a little bit of grace, because she's been over on the channel and we had a very good conversation, and I'm not going to go in on her the way I would normally go in on someone for an infraction such as this. But I did want to ask her a few questions, right? So when you use this type of terminology to describe a group of men in general, because she started out
with another episode of the Trifling Passport Bros.
So she's calling them trifling, I guess, just by virtue of being a passport bro. And then she calls them the Passport Pookies,
aka the Passport Predators.
And then aka the Passport Predators. Okay, so those are all examples of the worst case scenario about what men who fall under the Passport Bro moniker, what they could be. But she's taking that as the definitive idea of what they are. And again, that's the reason why, like I said before, it's so easy to just take a negative. Even someone like J-Rello, who the Passport Bros don't even consider him necessarily a Passport Bro. He is a Passport Pookie. But she, for her part, Golden Goddess just kind of lumped it all in, right? So, Golden Goddess, I want you to hold that, because I'm going to ask you a few questions a little bit later, but I'm going to let her go in on J-Rello a little bit, and then I'm going to circle back, because I'm going to ask her if those type of terminologies that she has for the Passport Bros, and that means everybody, right? Not just the J-Rello or, somebody who may have, done some nefarious things. She's casting this net far and wide to include, I would say, every man who happens to travel that has a passport. But again, I just want her to put a pin there, and we're going to circle back, but let's get it.
Okay, so this time we got J-Rello up. Okay, so obviously I don't watch the Passport Bros channels. Something doesn't sit right with me about men going to underdeveloped countries with poorer populations that don't have access to resources.
Okay, now you heard that part, right? She said something just doesn't sit right with her about men going to these countries and they'll have resources. Oh, okay. All right. So, I got a question for you, Golden Goddess. Since, by your definition, people who travel to countries with limited resources are committing acts of predators, right? That's what she said. So, I'm gonna show you some examples, Golden Goddess, and I want to know if you still have that same energy. Who could forget this lady right here?
I don't live here, I'm chilling.
You chilling here? Why are you not taking your flight?
It's none of your business. Now go home. I'm not talking unless y'all giving me land and 2,000 or more. You hear me? None of your business. Now go home. And 2,000 or more every week.
Oh, okay. So my question is this not predatory behavior? You have a woman. Oh yeah, y'all thought we forgot about this, right? Going over to a country, I believe Pakistan is considered one of the lowest ranking in terms of GDP or so forth. So it's a poor country. So she's going over there to poor people making demands. At least with J-Rello, he was going to countries, and albeit he's an e-beggar and it's pathetic, and that's the reason why he's considered a passport Pookie, because the first time we saw this dusty dude, he was somewhere in I believe Dominican Republic begging for money because he was too dim-witted to have enough money on him. He got stranded out there or something. That's the first time I think we saw this dude. But anyway, even with him, as despicable as he is, at least he's over contributing to the local economy, because even if he's begging his supporters for money, he's importing money. He's getting it from his donors, which are presumably mostly in America, and he's taking that money and spending it locally. This broad right here is going to another country that she was not invited to and demanding land and money. God damn it, that's neo-colonialism. This woman is over there not just as a predator, she's over there as a colonialist. And she had the audacity to be trying to inject herself into somebody's family, talking about that one of those Pakistani dudes was her husband. Now, can you guys show me an example of a man doing this? But meanwhile, women like Golden Goddess, they can never miss an opportunity to try to demonize a group of men doing certain things. Meanwhile, in their own gender, you have even worse going on. But we're not done. We got some more. Let's get it.
You hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, you hear me? And she being disrespectful.
I'm getting my Pakistani passport.
God damn, and she's trying to force now. Okay, so she wants land. She showed up out of nowhere. She wasn't invited. She's coming over there. She had those goddamn Spaniards, like the conquistadors, ain't got nothing on her. She's over there demanding land, servants in the form of she's bossing these people around like they're her servants. She wants money, and she wants citizenship. Let's go.
And Pakistani ID. I'm getting it. Do y'all agree?
And then she's trying to brainwash them, talking about, do you agree? Yeah. Okay.
Mind your business. What?
She over in their country.
Talk. I'm getting one. Do you have one? I have Pakistani passport. Oh, you do? Okay, good. Listen.
Okay, so look. I know y'all saying, yeah, that's an extreme case, but there's variations to that. A lot of those women go over there with a lot of entitlement. Who could forget this one right here? Look at this.
You rather stay here to eat. Why do you don't want a green card?
Oh, let me get on the screen. Y'all remember this one. So, Golden Guys, is this not predatory behavior? You rather stay here. And she look like she might be a biracial as well. So she's really coming over there as a neo-colonialist, and she wants sex slaves. She's over in Jamaica trying to get these dudes, at the risk of them not getting a green card, to do fellatio on her. Let's get it.
You rather stay here to eat. Why do you don't want a green card? Get me out of Jamaica, because this said they don't eat. And his lady don't respect him if he want him to eat. Where you from? Ziggy Marley, this.
And then she's insulting him, calling him Ziggy Marley. This man is out here just trying to do his job. He don't want that woman's rot box nowhere near his face, but she's out there literally committing what I would consider a sex crime by trying to coerce and strong arm and extort this man into performing a sex act on her. And if the roles were reversed, and if it was a guy somewhere harassing the women in any particular country, a black man in particular, and he was talking like this, the internet would combust. I mean, people would be screaming from the rooftops that he needs to be locked up. But meanwhile, this broad can go over there and be brazen enough to post it, and she looks to be damn serious. And I'm sure she's probably done this and more and worse off cam. But let's go.
Why you paddling alone, paddling alone.
So imagine the audacity that you have to go to somebody else's country. These men just look out. They're not even like those raft guys. Because I think we got a clip of that too. The guys who be scrubbing them down. All their cellulite. The women go over there looking like orcas and belugas, and they go over there and they're rubbing these women down. They're not even doing that. They're just getting an honest day's living, on their boats or whatever they're doing. And this broad rolls up, making demands of a sexual nature, all out in the open, trying to humiliate these guys in their own country. So, Golden Goddess, and any other ladies that's listening, is that not predatory? And my question to you is, if it is predatory, then why don't I see the same level of outrage whenever a situation like this pops up? But you can do it when it comes to the men, though. And speaking of which, to show you that we bring receipts once again, because one of the things that Golden Goddess said was that she don't like when men are going over to these poor countries where they don't have resources. Okay, well, presumably that woman that you saw, that little biracial looking chick, she probably is from the United States, right? So let's look at the difference between Jamaica and the United States in terms of economics. So this is economic exploitation, because this woman is only doing this because those men in Jamaica, and I'm going to show you here, have a per capita GDP of $5.4 thousand. Meanwhile, in America, as you can see on this line right here, has 63,000. So this is a total disparity. Jamaica has a yearly GDP of only $15 billion. There are literal American companies that have more money than that make more in revenue. United States itself, at the time of this posting, had a $20 trillion economy. Right? And like I said, to show my point about how poor Jamaica is relative to some American companies, I would have to go down the ranking to some of these countries. I mean, some of these companies, much less the top companies. I have to go down to like a mid-sized company to find one that's comparable to Jamaica in terms of annual revenue. See if I can pull that up. I think I got it over here. Hold on. Let me pull it up. Okay, yeah, it would crash on me. Give me a moment. Damn, browser done crashed. You know what? I don't even need to pull it up again. The point was proven. Yeah, I was going to pull that back up. The point was proven. And again, Golden Goddess, why would you not consider that to be predatory? She's taking advantage of men that are in a poor economic condition than hers, because she's presumably from the United States. I showed you the difference in their GDP compared to Jamaica. There are companies that are richer in America than the entire government of Jamaica, the entire country. There are some American companies that make $20 billion a year. That's more than Jamaica produces in a year. Okay, but this woman gets to go over there talking to these guys like that, but somehow it's not labeled predatory. Let's go.
Because you're not eating.
So she is over there making demands of these guys to commit all kinds of vile sex acts on her, and got the nerve to be, I mean, let's think of the audacity of this, right? So she's by herself, it looks like, filming herself, walking up. But I thought men were predators. And this goes to all these women who come out with that trope. Oh, men are so dangerous. How little fear do you have to have when you're rolling up like this? Not only are you worried about, it's about 3 or 4 dudes on this beach. So she's so unafraid that she's willing to take them back to their hotel, or her hotel, and sit on their face and tell them unless they do it right, they ain't getting no green card. So, you show me where the fear is in that, even though men are so dangerous apparently, and men are the predators, and you got this woman right here committing acts like that. Yeah, she looked very serious about the whole thing as well. And correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe I think they look alike, but
this is my problem with Passport Bros.
Is this like the same woman? I don't know. I could be wrong. You guys let me know in the comment section or whatever. This looks like the same damn woman complaining about Passport Bros. I could be wrong, but there's a striking resemblance. But let's see what she got to say here.
This is my problem with Passport Bros. Y'all go to these third world countries. Y'all get these women
looking like a busted can of Pillsbury, the flaky kind of biscuits, right? Look at it. Heard of a muffin top? That's a goddamn pound cake top. But anyway.
I mean, because I can just get me a woman over here that she's gonna sit down, she's gonna shut up, she's gonna do
and she's bad as well.
And she's
now, if this is the same woman, the level of hypocrisy is outrageous. She's talking about Passport Bros going overseas making demands. Meanwhile, if that's the same woman, we see her making demands of her own, right?
It's gonna be bad, right? But when a woman in America says the same thing, I want you to do this, and that for me, I could be that stay-at-home wife.
You can't go to
there's a problem. When we say it, it's a problem.
This is a
but Passport
argument. Flawed argument. Do you know why? Because of hypergamy. You can't go to a third world country, pick up a man that's going to be a millionaire, good looking, 6 foot, great.
But they can pick up one to get that eggplant that you just put on the screen there. That's what they go for, right? But meanwhile, they want to project it like that's the only thing men are going for. Crazy.
And then come and be your perfect guy. That's highly unlikely. The likelihood is those type of guys are going to be in your country of origin because you come from a first world country. Yes. It doesn't work the same. This is what men and women are different. Men don't mind dating down. Men don't mind marrying down. You can, as a man, I don't mind marrying a woman that works in McDonald's flipping burgers, bro. As long as she's bad and she's cooperative, it doesn't matter.
Exactly. So, but again, that's what they don't get because they are in competition with us. It's amazing. They're not in competition, but in their mind they are, right? But anyway, let's get some more of these clips. Let's get some more because we're just showing how these women act. Because remember, Golden Goddess and others, because again, I'm not just picking on Golden Goddess, but she's carrying the same type of talking point, calling men predators. Oh, okay. Well, I've showed you some examples and we got some more. Who are over in these, they're not even waiting to get off the plane before they're acting violent. Let's go.
Oh, shit. Oh, my God. I dare you with the gay ass. Oh my God. I dare you. What you trying to be on? What you trying to be on? I'm on whatever you want. I'll beat you the fuck up. What you trying?
Okay, you notice the Passport Bro or whoever, he's just sitting there minding his own business, and this woman is up and creating a havoc on the plane. Ridiculous.
If you really want to be, what you trying to be on? It's whatever. I'm trying to be. Say somebody know it. One thing, and I'm gonna rock your shit. Rock your shit.
Yeah. So who's bringing the drama? And we got more. We got another example on the plane. Of all places, you're gonna act a fool on a plane. Yeah. So yeah, we got more. So, but this is the behavior of these women going overseas. But meanwhile, the framing of this is that the men are the ones that the predators and all of that. So let's get a little bit more.
My fucking birthday, I went to Jamaica. So I'm pregnant by a Jamaican. I fucked a random Jamaican in Jamaica.
Okay, so maybe that went too fast for you guys, but I want you to understand what she just said. Let's go.
My fucking birthday, I went to Jamaica. So I'm pregnant by a Jamaican. I fucked a random Jamaican.
So we got another possibly biracial right here going down there getting knocked up by a Jamaican randomly. And again, I showed you the economic disparities. So she went down there. So maybe she couldn't get a man in America to be dumb enough to impregnate her. So she went down to take advantage of the fact that the Jamaican. So the Jamaican guy, he was exploited because he's in a poor situation. Because like Golden Goddess said, that's very disgusting for someone to go from a first world country, going down there, taking advantage, abusing the economy and the bodies of these people. And she went down there and got her a whole baby down in Jamaica. Yeah, that looks like exploitation and predatory behavior to me.
In Jamaica.
Yeah. So there you go. But, you know, they just need to understand that we're kind of surgical with this over here. You know, we're kind of surgical.
I see you. You know I'm surgical with this bitch, Jake. How you want it, dog? Huh? Closed casket?
Yeah, so I'm pretty much closing the casket on this, but I just had to point out a few things to Golden Goddess because, you know, this is for her and women like her who like to demonize the image of men without even understanding that the concept of living in a glass house while trying to throw stones. You ladies really need to learn that. And again, I'm going easy. I'm just bringing out the facts. And I'm going to let a couple of the ladies who actually have some sense maybe, you know, talk some sense into this situation before I move on to my final installment of this, and that is to address one Mr. Medium Man. So I don't think I've reviewed any of his stuff before. I've only seen a few of his videos, but he made some interesting points about Sigma Man. I'm going to wrap up with that. But let's go ahead and let some of these ladies school Miss Golden Goddess real quick. And the rest of these women.
These women saying they can get their passports too, I don't think they realize how crazy foreign men are. Like, you will get your head popped off if you come at your husband sideways. So if you're asking, like, can you get ran through? Sure, that's easy. The shit you do here in the States and how horribly you treat men, that won't fly overseas. So good luck with that.
Yeah, so a lot of these women, they got in their mind that they can run over the men the same way they do in the West, and they go over there, like this woman said, they go get their blocks popped off. But, you know, a lot of them, they still go down there and get busted down, whether it be in Jamaica or wherever else. So mission accomplished when it comes to that. But meanwhile, they want to demonize the men for doing far less. It's amazing. Let's get some more.
After listening and watching a lot of videos, I've come to realize that these men are very innocent. Some are good. They are wonderful people, and all they want is care and love. So why is it so hard for you to do that? And why do you keep making these hateful videos if you don't want them? We want them. They are good people. They are wonderful people. So what is wrong with that? If you cannot cook, if you cannot clean as a woman, actually, how do you take care of your hygiene? How do you clean that wig?
Damn.
How do you clean those nails?
Damn.
I don't understand you ladies. Oh, they are going overseas for women that are more beatable. Honestly, what you're doing to yourself, you're humiliating yourself. You are. There's no way you can insult your fellow women just because we are submissive. Do you even read your Bibles? A woman was meant to be submissive. And leadership, it's for men. Just because you're making money doesn't make you a man. And if you feel like you're a man, please get your girlfriend pregnant and please let us know. From there, we will respect you. But all I can say, please let us be. Let the passport pros be.
Yeah, so, you know, sometimes you just gotta let them talk to each other. You know, I got one more.
Sis, stop being angry about passport bros. Stop being angry about passport bros. There's nothing new about passport bros. My cousin, when I was about 12, 13, was married to a Japanese woman. Have y'all not met men coming from the military that were married to all sorts of women? My son-in-law is half Filipino. What the heck are y'all mad for? I just don't understand. But my point of this video is don't be upset because men want whatever they want. There are literally billions of people in the world, and you only need one person out of billions of people. So, and you don't have to get a passport. You just need to be the best version of yourself you can be. You need to be fit, beautiful, inspiring, cooperative, kind, submissive, okay, agreeable, cooperative. Elevate your beauty. Do what you need to do. But honey, you can attract and keep the love that you desire and deserve.
Okay, so, you know, they're still just complaining about everything. You know, they're the ones running overseas, going and getting busted down in these countries, and they want to project it. They've probably been doing it just as long, if not longer, than the men. They started doing it back in the day, and they're doing it to this day. You know, it's crazy. They've been doing it to this day.
To this day. To this day.
Yeah, but they, you know, little do they know that all of this information is out here for public consumption, and so they look kind of goofy. And then they go overseas and they mad because, you know, guys are not dating them the way they need to be dating, and it just ain't working out for them. It just ain't. You got women over here like this.
Hey, you guys, what's up? It's Ali, you all. I am literally getting ready to go live in 26 minutes on my YouTube channel to talk about the high probability that black women may have for finding love and successful dating in none other than Thailand.
Okay, so they delude themselves into going over there, right? Meanwhile, this is the actual experiences that they're having.
American men in Thailand. I have never seen so much disdain, and
these niggas be taking, and it sucks. But you can look up, like, I have been on some nice dates. Sorry.
So she lives in Thailand. She talked about the dating sucks because maybe she's walking around with a pink bonnet on her head, and you know the guy that's not culturally appropriate for the Thai. I don't know, but you know they'll be out here complaining about how they can't even get dates over there. They can get busted down all day, but they can't even get decent dates over there. But they expect you guys in the West to take them to $500 dates. It's amazing.
Nice dates out here. But no buts. Just make some friends. If you're coming out here as a black woman, just make.
Yeah, so she's just trying to give them advice. Meanwhile, she's failing. And this one right here was pretty interesting because I want you to hear her story. Yeah, she's over in Thailand, and you know, I just want you to hear what she got to say. Watch this.
Black men down is just sharing what we go through as women in a foreign country.
I want to ask, because I can see this, what dating is like in Bangkok right now.
Hey, let me tell y'all something. Dating in Bangkok, dating in Thailand.
She in Bangkok, banging cock, all right.
This was not planned. Baby, I'm having an Asian baby.
Okay, so she's over there in Thailand. Well, at least she's not a one-dropper. So she's saying that she's got an Asian baby. But she went out there and just let some random Thai dude skeet up in her. But it gets worse. Let's go.
I'm not going to lie. I was having fun at first.
It's funny how they keep zooming in on her belly. But anyway.
Dating overseas and abroad, it be lit. It's so many flavors. I ain't gonna say too much.
You said enough already.
Don't get too caught up. Don't get too wrapped up. Okay. But for real, as a woman, you just want to explore, especially just coming overseas and just being treated differently. Meet somebody super dope, and then they only here for a couple of days, and you be like, damn. Where you going, husband?
That's pathetic as I don't know what. So she's over there just getting busted down by random dudes. And they're just, you know, hitting it and quitting it. And she's up there thinking about marriage. This is ass backwards or bass backwards. This is ridiculous.
Just say this too, y'all. A man is going to be a man. Don't think you going to come overseas and he going to be acting right because you overseas. Like, I
recommend it?
I don't want to say I don't recommend because I recommend everyone experience and explore.
It's all about experiencing and exploring, but meanwhile, she's dragging a kid into that world. So and notice her attitude about the whole thing. She's just making it seem like it's such a cavalier thing. Meanwhile, all these guys, you know, they're just, You know, they're knocking her down, and then they just... and then they're getting up out of there. So it's crazy. But, you know, it's just so... what's the word I'm looking for? It's disgusting. It's repulsive. It's
Damn, girl. How you live like this?
Like what?
This some repugnant shit.
Yeah, that's some repugnant shit right there. Yeah, I mean, you know, I just want you guys to know that that's some of what those women are doing. But meanwhile, circling back to Golden Goddess and the rest of you ladies, what do you describe that behavior as? And it can get, there's more. You don't think that that's all we got. But for the sake of time, I think the point's been proven. And like I said, I got other things to deal with. But, yeah. Oh, let's go back to her video a little bit, because I want to address some other things.
Everybody.
So she's talking about this guy. And again, we ain't got no love for this clown. I think he's making the Passport Bros as well as himself and black men as a whole look bad with his antics, because obviously he went over to Kenya and somehow he got into a disagreement with some prostitute over there, and he started putting hands on her, and it just got real bad for him. And I think he's scared to come outside because the whole Kenyan culture is on his ass. So it's crazy. But anyway, we're going to get a little of this, and then we're just going to close this point out, and then we're going to get into a little bit with Media Man and some things he said with regard to the Sigma Man, and then we're going to wrap up. Let's go.
Watch the Passport Bros channel. Something doesn't sit right with me about men going to underdeveloped countries with poorer populations that don't have access to.
So again, she says something doesn't sit right with her with men going overseas with underdeveloped populations and not a lot of resources. So again, based on what I showed you, Golden Goddess, do you feel that same way about the women, or is it only the men that can be predators? Let's go.
Resources, taking advantage of the young women that are just looking for a better life.
Yeah, those Jamaican dudes on the beach were just looking for a better life, but that didn't stop that broad from rolling up on them, trying to demand fellatio out of them. Let's go.
Or a way to survive for themselves and their families. Well, from what I gather from these YouTube streets, apparently he is a YouTube panhandler. Set up fundraisers and take up donations, and then from that money he's able to travel the world.
And again, we don't agree with that. We think that's pathetic, and as a man you should have enough. Now, even if you're getting donations, that's fine, but you should not be like him, stranded in a country because you ain't got two nickels to rub together, and you're totally dependent on your donations just to conduct the business as a man that you're supposed to. So nobody's condoning that. This dude is a pariah in all camps. And again, I'm making it very clear with this video that Night Riders, he can never be one of us. Because number one, he's a goddamn beta, and we're Sigma men. And we know he's a beta because betas, and there's different scales to betas, because not even every beta is going to do stuff like this. But he's in such a passive situation where he's not controlling, he's leaving his destiny in other people's hands, right? And we totally condemn this. So again, I'm not faulting Golden Goddess or any other woman for going in on him, but when you go too far and you start making references and making blanket statements as to include other men who would never do some of this stuff, meanwhile your own gender is going overseas doing worse, and you ain't got that same type of name calling, we got to talk about it. But anyway, let's get some more.
He meets young women and then he bangs them on camera. Yes, despicable, disgusting. Apparently his channel's been deleted a couple of times, and I'm getting this information per O'Shea Duke Jackson. So they say there's basically a bunch of all these guys, they might be married or in relationships, and they're pretty much living vicariously through him, funding him being a degenerate online. Apparently this guy went to Kenya.
And again, I don't personally agree with that, but you compared this jackass to that other broad, and she was a bigger predator in the sense that at least J-Rello, being the e-bum or e-beggar that he is, he's raising money from one of his own donors, his own people. He's getting money from them, and he's contributing to the local economies. He may be contributing to the whole economy, but it's still money being circulated in our country. Golden Goddess, how do you compare that to a woman who shows up on the shores of a country, hat in hand, telling them, well, she's not even begging, she's demanding land, resources, citizenship, and going to inject herself in somebody's family, calling someone of them Pakistani dudes her husband, all while telling them that they better like it. So if you ask me, that's far more predatory. That's damn near colonialism. But anyway, let's get it.
Yeah, and he done pissed off Kenya, okay? Not only did he disrespect the country, but he also disrespected the women and allegedly got caught abusing a woman on live stream. Let's see what's been going on, y'all.
Out here, you don't, I take my hat off to Austin for moving out here, because I'm looking around at the infrastructure and I'm like, I would not want to be around all of this poverty. I ain't gonna lie, coming from the United States and living here, it feels like a downgrade. I thought it was going to be like a better infrastructure, but it just like, you're in Africa, and it's like if you're.
It sounds like he had high expectations, but some of these countries, depending on the country you go to, the infrastructures are pretty good. Some of us, like me, we live in a country that in many ways has a better infrastructure. And that's one of the things that Golden Guys and these other women don't understand, because they thinking that all these different countries are so poor and backward and that the people are so destitute, as if you don't have poor people in America, right? It's like if that's your get down, if you're the type of person that likes exploiting poor people, you don't have to go too far outside the borders of America to find that. But again, some of these countries have very exceptional infrastructures, but in his case, I think he was just maybe oversold, or he just kind of had higher expectations, so he was disappointed in that respect. So that's fine. But his dumb ass is still in the country dissing these people, which is kind of goofy. But anyway, let's get some more.
It was like, how you see like those National Geographic commercials and stuff. Like, it's probably like 2 steps up from like hut living is what it feels. But I mean, they got nice like buildings, but like it just when you go outside and you just.
And he's so tone deaf as a black man, he don't even know how stupid he looks saying that. Meanwhile, white racist people, they love that kind of stuff because they want to perpetually say that Africa's the people living in huts and so forth. So you get this guy going over there trying to confirm that, which is stupid. We know there are countries in Africa that have very good infrastructures. But anyway, let's go.
It just looks that's like, it just, the poverty, the visuals is just poverty. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, it's not as bad as I could imagine somewhere else being, right? So I'm gonna give it probably like a 6 on how bad.
Oh, I did find this a little strange because he's still in the country of Kenya, so it's a little bit weird to be like dragging the country while you're still in it. Usually people probably would wait until they leave just in case, people saw it.
Just like blown away right now that these chicks are so ugly to me, guys. I'm like, I was in the club.
And again, that's a matter of opinion. Obviously, we've talked about this as far as how a lot of brainwashed Negroes, they have a European standard of beauty. Unless a woman looks within the framework of what would be considered European beauty, they can't appreciate it. He's probably been to a lot of countries like DR. Of course, he's been to DR. We've seen him struggling over there. So he's used to the more biracials and the mixed and all of that. And he maybe went to Kenya looking for a high concentration of that, being ignorant of the country, when it's mostly going to be women of a more pure African background. And I've even heard people call Lupita Nyong'o unattractive, which is ridiculous because she's, in terms of how she looks, she's beautiful. I don't like her personal decisions. I think that makes her unattractive, but physically, and she's Kenyan, she's very attractive. But again, it just depends on how people are cultured. And it looks like he was, very much cultured. And you can like what you like. I'm not trying to police what people like, but a lot of that is influenced by how you were cultured. And if, he grew up with people denigrating him for his dark skin or whatever, then he internalizes that. And he didn't have maybe the benefit like some of us who've had parents who instilled in us that we were attractive, even though we may have been of a darker hue or whatever, then a lot of that does start at home. And if he was raised by a self-hating mom, things like that, that could trigger that as well. But anyway, let's get a little bit more.
like, why are they not attractive enough? Like most of these chicks, guys, you're not gonna want to pay. I ain't gonna lie to you.
And this is laughable because more than likely these same women share his phenotype. Maybe he was in some little hole in the wall somewhere.
Yeah, so she's probably right about that. Let's go.
Come on, I know it's got to be some bad bitches in Kenya, right? It's given when men get.
Yeah, it is, because like I said, they be showing them, and then it just depends on the guy. I mean, I've never been to Kenya, but I've come across some Kenyan women before, and they were pretty attractive. Well, let's go.
Reject it, and they're like, "Oh, you're ugly. You ain't all that anyway." But anyway, let's continue, right?
Most of these chicks, you feel like you should be for free. I ain't gonna lie. You want to use your wrist, like blown away that so much of a city could have so many average to ugly looking women, yo. It's just like these chicks they have a permanent mean mug on their face that's just like.
And again, I'm not sure if maybe it's just how he was approaching them, because I've seen some guys that they said the women were pretty approachable and so forth. It just depends. But let me fast forward through some of this, because he's just whining and complaining about that. Hold on.
Sex trafficking stuff. Maybe it was just a girl who had a pimp. So either way, the lady ended up changing her mind, and she decided that it wasn't even worth the coin, the American coin. And more than likely, she probably decided that she didn't want to film on camera and felt uncomfortable with that. And so this is what happened next.
I'm saying no. You said yes. That's the only reason I brought you back, because you said yes. Money. I paid you already. I gave you 10,000 to bring to come here.
So apparently 10,000 shilling in Kenya is about $76 in American money.
You didn't give it to me. You gave it to the company. Well, yeah, but you lied. So you lied. You lied to me. Get dressed.
So I had to look around for bits and pieces of the video in different places, and apparently they don't have the altercation on video. Everybody is saying that he hit the lady, and you can hear it. I'll let you guys hear the whole thing, and you can let me know what you think about it in the comment section. Either way, it does seem like a violent exchange and a little scary.
Because you lied. I'm feeling you. Put your clothes on. Put your fucking clothes on. I'm taking you back. Put your clothes on. Take me back. Put your shit on. Put your shit on. Put your clothes on. Put your clothes on. In terms of the local trend, put your clothes on. Must be this kind of put on all serious. Put your clothes on. You're home. You got take you back about how I'm gonna create straight to season. Put your clothes on now. Put your clothes on. Don't do that to me. Put your clothes on, man. I don't do that.
Again, she killing me with these video clips. That's crazy. Let's go.
Put your clothes on.
You will get arrested right now.
At this point, J-Rello loses his mind.
Because you lied. Put your clothes on.
Don't do that.
Put your clothes on. Put your clothes on. I'm taking you back. Put your on. I'm taking you back to the shop. Put your clothes on. Don't fight. Put your clothes on. Go put them on. Put your clothes on. Put your clothes on now. Put your clothes on now. Yeah, you good. Put your clothes on. Hey, you put your clothes on. Put your clothes on. What I look like?
At this point, J-Rello hit Kenya girls so hard, we heard it in America.
Put your clothes on. Put your clothes on. Put your clothes on now. I'll beat the shit out of you in here.
Okay, now none of us are condoning that. So again, it makes no sense for any of these women to extrapolate what this guy is doing to the larger, whether it be passport bros or black men. But again, like I said, when the problem that I have with the video, I'm not saying she's wrong for condemning him personally, but when she opens up the video talking about passport predators and Pookies in general, based on what this knucklehead did, that's when we gotta push back. So let's get a little bit more.
Put your clothes on. Put your clothes on right now. Put your clothes on right now. Put them on. Your dumb ass up right where you. I'm picking your dumb ass right where I left your dumb ass.
So he has been online since this whole incident, and I didn't hear him deny that he hit her, but I'm not exactly sure. If you guys know more than me, feel free to put it in the comment section. The situation is such a bad look for the passport bros that have had plenty of deserved bad press, in my opinion.
Okay, so why would she even say that? She said that based on what this guy did, then it's a reflection on all the passport bros, right? Which, like I showed before, well, I was going to play a clip of Austin Holloman, but he was saying how there's not a real standard, but even the guys who were associated with, they came out to condemn him. So if they're distancing themselves from him, saying that he's not even really considered a passport bro like that, then why is that a bad look for them as a whole? So again, Golden Goddess and any other lady who feels this way, the question is, how is it that you can take an outlier situation like this that nobody condones? I have heard zero guys, including myself, precisely zero guys condoning what this jackass did. Nobody is saying for him to put hands on anybody. Some of the dudes don't even condone him tricking, right? Even though there's a wide range, not to police what grown men do, but there are some guys who are even against the fact that he's doing that, much less putting his hands on some of the women, right? So this is something that should be regulated and isolated with him and him.
The passport bros have officially come out against this man, and even Austin came.
So now she's acknowledging that the passport bros have, quote, officially came out. So why is she opening her video condemning the passport bros as a whole when she knew that the guys came out to condemn them? So that's what I'm talking about, Golden Goddess. And I would expect more. I would expect more from you, because I even had you on my platform when you had these exoticals out here giving you guys a bad image as biracials. And I made it a concerted effort for me to give you an opportunity to speak your position, to distinguish yourself from a group that does not represent you. But meanwhile, you could take a bad example and then try to blanket statement that to every black man in particular that happens to have a passport. So you have to explain to me how that makes sense. But let's go.
To condemn him and let him know that he doesn't fuck with him like that, and he will call the police on him. It is apparently every man for himself, and it's about self-preservation. Apparently these men think that they're going to go out to Kenya or to whatever other country and have the Austin experience, but the one thing that they are not catching on to is they are not going to have the same experience, because Austin is two things that they are not: young and handsome.
Well, some of us are older and handsome, but anyway.
Let's see what he had to say about it.
I want to make it. And let's be clear about something. Now, she's right in the sense that the experiences will vary. Because if you're a fat, bald, chubby dude, I mean, you still gonna get some love. But some of us who keep ourselves more in shape, may have some height and all that. We obviously get the celebrity treatment. Let's just call it what it is. And for you guys who are on the Knights of the Round Table, I'm going to show you some of such videos where I'm, walking around certain countries and showing you some of the women coming up to me. You will be seeing those videos. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But the point is, yeah, you're going to get various degrees of experiences as a guy, no matter where you're at. But at the same time, there's no reason to do what J-Rello did. He's just doing that either for the cam or because he's just a jackass. He could have got her up out of there another way. He could have called somebody to have her removed. Guys, I never tell you guys to put hands on anybody unless it's in self-defense, which we're going to be talking about more in depth as well. Certain ways to, if you're in certain situations, how to get out of it. But, yeah, but at any rate, this right here is irresponsible, especially when she knew, Golden Goddess, you knew that this was condemned. You knew that Austin Holloman, even though he don't necessarily identify himself as a passport bro anymore, people still see him as the face of it. And he came out with this video to condemn him, and you should have said that from the beginning instead of just putting out a blanket statement that they're all Pookies and predators. But let's get it.
is very clear about, and I usually don't like representing groups of people. I'm only Austin Holloman, but in this scenario, I will represent groups of people. And I will say for all the Black Americans that are here, I'm going to say that we will not, as a collective, especially in specific for the men, we will not tolerate any disrespect towards any local Kenyan women. And in any Black Americans, I will tell you that once more, please, we will turn on you and we will have legal action against you. And maybe not, some of the action might not even be legal.
And we all know exactly what that means. Let's see what J-Rello had to say about all this.
And so now the block is hot on J-Rello, and what's so bad is he don't really have a whole lot of money to get back. He was trying to get to South Africa, but this is what happened.
As you guys know, basically went viral out here in Kenya for the situation with the young lady the other day, and it's even bigger than I initially projected. I'm like famous out here now. Infamous is the word. Basically, I'm so hot, like, to where I can't even really leave the house without people pointing in, like, whispering. I'm seeing stuff and I'm like, oh my God. So I guess they posted me on the equivalent of like Shade Room. I guess they had some blog.
Yeah, because you're an idiot. You think you just run to somebody's country, putting hands and feet on one of their women and then filming it? This dude's an idiot. But anyway,
out here, and it's like going really crazy. And so I'm starting to get recognized as that guy that they got me basically as the guy that was complaining about how ugly the women are here, which is actually.
So it's like they ain't even putting as much emphasis on him putting hands on her. He's just like, well, don't be out there calling them ugly, right? Anyway, let's go.
Why is it always unattractive men that want to call somebody ugly?
Yeah, I mean, I don't judge dudes, but I leave that to the women. But at the same time, it's a matter of opinion. It just depends. But again, his opinion is his opinion, but he don't have to film all that. He damn sure don't have to be putting hands on a woman and then having that on cam as well. So he's just goofy all the way around, regardless as to how he looks.
But it's just funny that, they actually got me going viral for that and the other situation that happened with the young lady. So, like, as of this moment right now, we just got to get up out of Kenya, y'all. I ain't gonna lie. I gotta get up out of here. I'm too hot. I'm hot. I'm not like, I feel like Osama bin Laden right now. Like, I'm in a different B&B hiding out. I never knew Kenya was like that, where it was like so close.
Yeah, man, them Kenyans got him hiding in the Airbnb. It's on site. Time he step out, there's that nigga. Get him. Yeah, all of them just gonna come on his head. I mean, they coming at him. So he just, it's a bad look. But at least they're making an example out of him, I guess. Well, let's go.
That like word got around like so crazy like this. So it's kind of, I'm in a spot to where I undermine how close, because it's a big city. Like, this place is huge. Like, it's vast. It's a lot. It's a lot to basically, there's a lot to get to, but it's also so big to where you could stay your whole time and not see somebody. So, because there's just so many little duck off spots, so many little clubs and little just hole in the wall spots to where, this is like a perfect hideout type of place, because it's low, but
anyway, yeah, that's pretty much that. I just want to show you guys that, again, this is the level of association they'll have, and then they'll make it seem like he's a representation of men who travel in general. And like I said, I made a clear distinction earlier so that it's without any equivocation, any confusion, how we roll as night riders, and we don't do it like that. We have our own specific strategies for why we travel, and women are not a major part of that. Even though it is part of the calculation, it is not a big issue because we're looking at other metrics. So again, I just needed to address that. Wasn't trying to go in on Golden Goddess. Personally, I wanted to make sure that she was clear that I felt that was unacceptable. You have to be very discerning in your language, especially if you're putting out accusations of, calling people predators, labeling that as a group, because like I said, even though we don't consider ourselves passport bros over here, we know there's an adjacency because we're black men that travel. But there's a very big difference within the framework of how the passport bros operate and what we do. Meanwhile, with a lot of the irresponsible propaganda and talking points, we're all lumped in. So we have to be very vigilant to push back against such narrative. So again, I hope that was educational for you, and that Golden Goddess, you and other women like you will be more discerning and careful with your rhetoric in the future. Now, having said that, let's go to the final part of our presentation, and that is as it pertains to the video. I think he made this video a while ago. It came across my desk a while ago, and I wanted to touch on it, but now I'm just kind of getting around to it. And we're doing one of those other deluxe type videos where I'm like a double and triple feature, so I'm just going to incorporate that. I could have made this into a separate video, but I just felt like it would be better to give it to you all in one fell swoop, and we'll take it from there. Now, when it comes to this particular brother,
a man with options, honest.
I've seen his, some of his stuff. I haven't watched a lot of it, to be honest, and nothing against him. It's just I don't have a lot of time these days to watch a lot of other people's stuff, regardless, unless it's just current news and things like that. I don't dive deep in terms of other people's content, because another thing, I like to be in my own thoughts, so that that's why a lot of what I talk about is original concepts, right? But anyway, especially if it's something that interests me, or if it's something that kind of parallels to what we talk about, if it shows up on my feed, then I'll look at it. So he made a particular video. I think maybe this was a month or so ago. I forget. But we got the video, and he was talking about Sigma Men, right? And I think overall, I would agree with the video. I think he did a pretty good job with his presentation, but there are 3 key points that I'm going to disagree with him on. And I believe I'm going to tag him on this as well. So if he chooses to respond, it's fine. If not, that's fine as well. But I think that there's a few things that he needs to be aware of as it pertains to black men Sigmas in particular, or as we affectionately call us, night riders, right? So I think that his particular branding or his audience may be just, cross racial lines. I don't think he's necessarily focused on black men, although ostensibly I would expect that that's what he's doing. And I think that he needs to be made aware of a few things. And like I said, there's 3 core points with the remaining time where we at about 2 hours and a half. Okay, not too bad. I would have liked to complete this by 1 and 45 minutes, hour 45, but it's cool. We still good. I'm sure you guys have been enjoying it so far. Anyway, he just maybe needs to be aware of a few things. And again, this isn't necessarily a debate. It's just some clarifications, right? And like I said, 3 key points that I disagree with. I'm just going to kind of skim through it. I wanted to play more of what he had to say, but for the sake of time, I think I'm going to just kind of skim through it more, because I kind of divided it into 3 videos. Well, first of all, let's give the man some acknowledgement for the outfit. I'm liking the color scheme. And yeah, that's something I would probably wear, to be honest. And that's probably one of the best compliments I can give him. That's a nice little fit that he got there. I like the colors, the vest and all that. Okay, I see what you're doing there, bro. Now that that's out of the way, let's get into this work. I'm going to play his some of his opening statements, and I'm going to show you the 3 key points that I disagree with him on. Let's go.
Honesty and discipline is the most dangerous man in today's. A man with options, honesty, and discipline is the most dangerous man in today's dating market. Yeah. Before I begin, I want to be clear about who this conversation is for and who it isn't. This message is not for the men who have removed themselves from the dating market out of bitterness, resentment, or disdain towards women. If your past experiences or the type of content that you regularly consume have led you to view all women with contempt, then this conversation will not resonate with you. This is also not for the men who have made the personal choice to become passport bros or who categorically refuse to date women in the United States. If you've opted out entirely and relocated your dating life overseas, this message is not directed at you either.
Okay, so this is the point of contention. The first point of contention that I have, and let's be very clear, he's welcome to present his information to whoever he chooses with regard to who he wants to target his audience, have as his target audience. That's fine. But when when the topic of the video is Sigma men, specifically black Sigma men, presuming that that's who his core target audience is, I think that it's kind of disingenuous, or it doesn't quite fit to exclude one of the chief methodologies that the Sigma is going to implement insofar as removing himself from the market. Whether it be a passport bro or whatever he chooses to do. I think it's kind of like, he's saying he's going to bake a cake, but he's saying he won't be including these key ingredients such as flour and eggs or something like that. What's very much vital to the group to which he's addressing, I think he's removing a key component. And I think that that's something that he may not be aware of when it comes to black Sigma men. And this is one of the key points I want to make. He's making a statement that the men who this is for are the men who are essentially still playing the game, and the ones who have removed themselves from the situation is not for them. But I believe that if that's the case, then this should be more addressed towards the pickup artist guy, the PUA community, the guys who are still trying to get married to women that, by all accounts in the West, for the most part, are not really marriage material. Not in every case, but in a substantial number of cases. So I think that he may be slightly behind the curve, and as a military man, which I can appreciate. I have military people in my family as well. I think he could appreciate this old saying, which is great generals normally fight the previous war. So I think he's a bit behind the curve insofar as seeing that one of the key methodologies that Sigma men in particular are implementing, considering how despicable the current dating market is in the West, then by virtue of that situation, by definition, a Sigma man is going to look for the most rational conclusion. He's not going to waste his time playing the game, because later on he's going to go on to say that, obviously he's tailoring this to guys who are still playing the game and doing all that. That may have been true 10, 20 years ago. Because even as Sigma men, because I believe that's when I was even still in the environment at that time. But as time is winding down, and as we look at the geopolitical situation, we really don't have time to move like that anymore. And a lot of what he may define as the Sigma men, they just simply are not going to be wasting time doing that. They're going to be going for the jugular as far as what's the best option. Now, that's not to say it's all across the board. There may still be Sigma men who feel like the best life for them is still there in the West. I think that's a case for some of them, but specifically when it comes to night riders or black men who happen to be Sigma men, I believe that it's a foregone conclusion that the vast majority of us have already calculated as a part of what we're going to do is to abandon that particular situation and not waste any time. Because some of you have even confided in me and told me that even though some of you may be working in the West and making your money, you're only stacking bread so that you can get the hell up out of there. And a lot of you have said that you've been in muck mode for a while and all of that. And I totally get it. I totally understand where you're coming from. But I think that's the part that he's missing. And I think the software needs to be upgraded a little bit, because there are specific things that are affecting black men more acutely. And more in particular, that's the reason why the resolve and the solutions that we are coming up with are what may be considered more extreme, such as totally getting to another region. but that's the appropriate move for black men that happen to be Sigma. So again, I could go deeper on that, but for the sake of time, I'm going to leave that there. That's the first point of contention that I have. So let me get to the next one.
This message is for the men who are still in the game, men who are willing to approach dating with strategy, self-respect, and awareness. This is for the men who understand that modern dating is often transactional and are not offended by that reality, because they've accepted that many modern women are leading with their terms and they're simply responding in kind. This is for the men who are willing to take calculated risks, men who prepare to win, lose, or learn.
Okay, so again,
all in the pursuit of one thing, getting what you truly want, whether that be a wife, a partner, or other things.
Right. So those three things for the average, or I would say more than average, of the black men who happen to be Sigmas in particular, because again, I'm not going to, pigeonhole what his content is, who his content is intended for, but I'm just acting on the expectation that at least the vast majority of his audience are black men. And those small percentage of black men who are Sigmas, because as we know, Sigmas are pretty rare. But he has to understand that those instances where the Sigma men are involved, that's part of the calculus. That's exactly what we're doing based on the reality of the situation. The guys that this would be more tailored to are the guys who are the PUAs, the guys who are still interested in that market for whatever reason. Like he said, marriage and so forth. A lot of the Sigma men have already come to the inevitable conclusion that that's not the most viable or efficient or effective use of our time because of the disproportionate amount of women who just don't fit those metrics. So again, I could go a lot deeper and further, but for the sake of time, I'm going to identify that as my second point. I think that his particular branding of who his audience is more leveled or levied toward those guys who are still pickup artists, game guys, and all of that type of stuff. An actual Sigma man is not necessarily playing that game. I'm not saying in every case, but the vast majority of us, we are done. We're just not doing it. It's a waste of time. We're looking at the bigger picture, and we just ain't doing it. So that's the other thing. So there's that. Now, the other point, let me see if I can get to it here.
If that sounds like you, then you're in the right place. Now let's talk about why the dating market feels rigged and what you can do to master it. Single men are living in the most transparent, manipulative, entertaining, and emotionally draining dating market in modern history. Social media has not only confirmed suspicions that both men and women once had, it has made those suspicions undeniable realities. With that being said, I posed a direct question to the single men who continue to express their frustration over the behavior of modern women. Why aren't you succeeding?
Well, what does that have to do with me?
No. He's got a point.
For the first time in history, women are openly expressing their dating intentions and behaviors. It's as if the answers to the exam have been handed to you by the teacher. So instead of complaining, it's time to adapt and strategically categorize women based on your current goals, wives, or other things. If you are
right now, the question is are those two categories, wives and other things, is that still an acceptable option, or is the juice not worth the squeeze as it pertains to the Sigma man's calculus? I would argue that the Sigma man has already deduced that the vast majority of the women, whether they be potential for the wives or for the other things, it does not meet the minimum requirements. So therefore, they're taking their show on a road. And again, that circles back to my overall point, is that he's framing this as if the Sigma men are going to be the ones who are just still there trying to play the game, which it's like, as I mentioned, taking a cake that you're trying to make a German chocolate cake without flour or something like that. Or, it's just like in warfare, and here's another military example that I'm sure he could appreciate. In naval warfare, it was a time that the battleship was the preeminent weapon. The battleships dominated the high seas for a long time until the aircraft carrier came along, and it changed the game. So I think that in many ways, when it comes to how he's defining Sigma men and how he's looking at Sigma men, he may be slightly behind the curve, whereas over here we're on the the cutting or bleeding edge of it. And that's the reason why I'm just asking him to maybe update his software and understand where the mentality is when it comes to the Sigma sphere, specifically the Black Sigma sphere, is that, listen, you cannot extract them from using travel and getting out of the domestic market as a function of their solution. You just can't do it. You know, that's one of the key problems that I have. And the third point before I wrap up that I wanted to make, as far as why I disagree with him, is because, and I would play the part, but like I said, I'm kind of running a little bit out of time here, so I'll just say it. I believe at one point in his video, he's making it seem as though the Sigma is going to be interested in going the distance, as far as, you know, even if he makes it clear to the woman what he wants, and then she decides that she's going to change him and she's just going to ride it out, and that the Sigma man is kind of going to be there with her and, you know, try to make the impression on her and go ahead and bring her in. And I think that that's an assumption that could have been made 10 years ago, 20 years ago, but nowadays the Sigma is willing to reject women. I know personally there's been several women that I've had the opportunity have came at me and, you know, wanted to make themselves available, and I just had to respectfully turn them down. And I'm sure some of you have done the same thing, because we're just not going to waste time. You know, gone are the days that a lot of you guys are just trying to, you know, play the long game just to get, you know, hit them and quit them and all that kind of stuff. It's really a waste of time and resources. So I think that throughout the video, he did a pretty good job, and he was right. At one point, he breaks down what the Sigma man is, and he gives a very good definition. However, it's in direct opposition and contrast to the methodology that a Sigma man would use in the current environment that as it stands today in the West. So I think that to me, those key points are the reason why I wanted to touch on this. Again, I had planned to go a little bit deeper, but I did kind of spend a little bit more time on other things that were important, you know, in parallel to this. But I think that's the gist of it, so I'll leave it there. But at any rate, shout out to this brother. Once again, I might tag him in the video if he happens to see it. I did want to make it clear that I overall agree with the video in terms of your definition of a Sigma man, and some of the things that you said in terms of how we move are correct. And he himself, I think at some point, he used to be a Sigma man, but he now, I would say, leans more towards the Alpha. And for those of you who are not familiar with how this works, and I think, you know, that it's important to, you know, let you guys know how this works. Sigmas and Alphas are interchangeable. It just depends on the situation. I'm sure, you know, this brother is astute enough to know this, but I'm just speaking to some passerbys. You know, we've covered this before, so a lot of my normal night riders, you know this as well. But just to illustrate it here, let me show you something. There's an equal level in terms of a lot of things, because we're basically the same people, because at certain points in my life, I have been the Alpha as well. It just depends on where you are in any given situation. And most of the time, specifically those of us who are Alphas but happen to be introverts, that we automatically kind of becoming Sigmas. But if you look at the social sexual hierarchy, you see the Alpha and the Sigma are equal, and it says the Sigma and Alpha are equal in the social sexual hierarchy. However, the Sigma chooses to sit outside the hierarchy. And that's another reason why I would disagree with the dear brother here, is because he did not account for that in terms of his exclusion of the guys who are getting themselves out of the market. Because there's nothing there that would make them go. See, the Alpha, he wants to be in the mix. He's the type of guy typically that would try to shame the guy for wanting to dip out. And you've seen those guys. Some of the guys I know that I'm even cool with, I see them all the time throwing shots at, you know, the passport bros, for example. And again, you know, there's different levels to it, but those are the guys who want to be part of the hierarchy. They think it's a sign of a man not being able to get a woman or whatever because he's deciding to go overseas, which we all know is false. Nothing can be further from the truth. However, it's the Sigmas who would be the ones who are more prone to do that. And I think that's a key component of what the medium man here overlooked. So again, not saying that it was a bad video or that I didn't agree with a lot of his points. It's just those key things that I felt the need to clarify. But at any rate, yeah, that's it. We're going to end the video here. I do appreciate you guys for staying this long. I know it has been a while since I did a presentation, but you know, you guys normally love these long form videos, and you know, I won't be able to do them as much, especially when we're rolling out other things such as the Knights of the Round Table. But we're going to chop it up, and you know, we're going to get together and decide if we're going to still do the lives on YouTube, or if that's just something we're going to keep on the wraps that we do, and then we'll go ahead and maybe post an edited version later to YouTube. We'll see, but I'll leave that up for us to decide together. At any rate, we are going to end the way we always do. We're not just a broadcast or a podcast. We're a squadcast. There's a very big difference. Mission complete. Over and out.